Good evening. Welcome to the April 22nd, 2026 Abington Finance Committee meeting. This will be our final meeting preparing for a town meeting, which is amazingly is in a week and a half.
May 4th.
May 4th, Monday at 7 p.m. at the Abington Middle High School Gymnasium.
Auditorium.
Not gymnasium, auditorium. Please come and bring a friend. And be nice to us.
Please arrive early.
Arrive early so we can get everybody counted and get started right at 7 o'clock. Tonight, we will be going over the 3 articles on the warrant that we have not made a recommendation on. We will reopen the capital item because there's been at least one change to it. We will entertain any other warrant articles that anyone on the board may want to reopen. We will get the latest and last update on the budget as we go over the budget and end up voting on that. Then we will go to standing business of liaison reports, correspondence, there is none, and minutes, there are none. And then we will discuss that our next meeting is 1 hour prior to town meeting, and then we will conclude. So, without further ado, we are going to not go in numerical order because we have our fire chief here with us, we have our town moderator with us. So we're going to start with the fire DPW building project and Article 15, which is borrowing for that article.
Motion to discuss,
I'll second.
recommend.
We don't need a motion to discuss. We need the motion to discuss, but we don't want the motion to say that it's to discuss.
Motion to recommend Article 15. Additional funding for new fire station and DPW building project.
I'll second Chris.
Motion from Chris and a second from Abby. So we can now discuss the fire DPW project, which we have discussed quite a bit already in our meetings. A couple of us discussed also with the chief, the moderator, and the town manager Saturday, viewing the new building, getting a little bit of a look around there, getting some questions answered for the board, which was very much appreciated. Thank you for that,
Vice versa.
Chief. So let's start out with who has questions.
Can I just, for the record?
Yes.
For people who don't know, Sean Riley. I am the town moderator, but I'm appearing now as the chairman of the building committee for the DPW and fire station. So that's why I'm here at the table, not as the moderator. I am going to recuse myself and step down as moderator for this article because I am volunteering for this committee, along with the 4 other volunteers in the committee. And just as a means of getting into the discussion, last week, we talked about the importance of this article, and there were questions brought up about whether there was a sauna, and a bathtub or ice.
Hookups.
Well, first it was whether it was a sauna thing or hookups, right? And caught me off guard. I said, as chairman, I've never seen them, never heard of them, they haven't been purchased, but you asked me to confirm. So we did, I consulted with the architect, project manager. There is absolutely no sauna being purchased.
May I jump in, sir?
And just let me set your table for you.
Go right ahead.
All right. No sauna, no ice bath, no extra hookups at all. There's no 220 plug in the wall that doesn't do anything else but sit there for the future. There's no extra plumbing lines at all. So that is not part of our building. Happy to answer the question, but it's a rumor that started blowing up. And after that meeting, as Chairman Sala just mentioned, he reached out to me on Friday afternoon and said that he and Greg would like to see the plans, which were locked up in the site trailer. But I contacted one of our project manager, David Ambrose, who actually lives in Abington, and I said, I know it's your day off, but could you meet us Saturday morning and unlock everything, which he was kind enough to do. And then he said, instead of looking at the plans, he said, we'll take you through a tour of all the buildings, or you can do both, whatever you'd like. And Greg and Matt were there along with the chief and I and the town manager and David Ambrose, one of the project managers. So we walked through the entire first and second floor of the fire station. Then we took a walk through the DPW building.
The entire, because parts of it you can't really walk through yet.
Yeah. Well, we didn't walk through the garage bay, but you saw it,
getting
right?
there, but-
And then we walked through the salt shed. And I think it was pretty informative for you guys to see where we are. And honestly, I hadn't had a chance to walk through them in the last 45 days, so it was good for me to do that. But that's the immediate answer. There is no extra plumbing, there is no extra electric. And I'm sorry, did you want to add?
No,
something?
go right ahead.
No, you're doing great.
I just wanted to add to that. I'm glad you guys brought it to our attention. I'm glad this got brought up. There was discussion probably about 2 years ago when we started the project. And in my mind, I'm thinking forward thinking, the buildings for the next 60, 70 years, is it something that we should look at for the potential down the road with electrical hookup, that they want to do a sauna with, that's what some of the stations do. It never got done. It wasn't going to be done. It took a life of its own. I double checked when I heard the meeting with you guys. I went back and actually said, let's find out, are we in there? And they said, no, not in there. I said, anything to do with any ice plunge or anything? They said, no, they had a artist rendering, an idea, basically. Well, artist renderings, as we learned from the fuel tanks, you can't trust them. They're ideas from people. I made the point right then and there, remove it. No language, nothing. I don't want anybody to get the wrong idea on that. That's not the case. But I wanted to double check and make sure. And by all means, I gave Greg my number. You guys have my number. Anytime there's something coming up with the fire station, we want to answer the questions right away. We don't want anything out there. But I loved having the walkthrough with you guys the other day, because it was excellent, because there was a lot of things we could kind of go over together. And I know Greg had brought up some good questions, and I was able to answer it. He actually inspired a Facebook post that I had for the fire department the other day, because we were talking about paramedics and what paramedics do. Someone had emailed me, so it gave me an opportunity to kind of explain to people out there what it is, because sometimes you take it for granted that everybody knows what we're doing. But as far as this project goes, there is nothing in there, no hookups, nothing on the town's money whatsoever. So I want to make that clear.
And I don't want to beat a dead horse, but what I've learned about saunas in the last couple of days is there are some fire stations that actually have them, but it's not for what the general public would think is relaxation. They actually utilize them when a firefighter gets exposed to chemicals or he's in a fire situation. It helps them to bleed the chemicals out of their skin, out of their pores. That's the purpose of a sauna in a fire station. We do not have one at the Abington Fire Station.
We don't have one at the current station.
We don't have one at the current
We're not
station.
putting
Planning
we're not
one, we
putting
don't
one
have
into-
anything.
That's right.
Yeah,
Hook
that's
up
it.
anything to.
Correct.
We currently have 5 double bays when you count the Bedford Street and Rockland Street stations. We are building 5 current bays. One of the questions was asked, why didn't you build a 6th? Because we didn't have enough money, right? Can you fit every single DPW truck into the new DPW garage? No, but we can fit every diesel truck in there, which was our huge goal. They couldn't fit every truck in the prior DPW either. But we have been incredibly cost-effective, trying to really micromanage some of the invoices that come in. And I just want to bring up another update. I mentioned to you how we were looking in the minutia and that we were challenging an invoice for paper towel dispensers. Remember this one? We told them to eliminate them. We thought they were just a waste of money. It was a minor thing, but it was going to cause a carpenter and all this stuff to be done. The contractor offered us $750 credit, and we said, sharpen your pencil. I'm pleased to report that at the most recent meeting, they are now giving us a credit of over $4,000. Okay, minor thing, but those things add up. They add up a lot. I also want to report that the contractors, the general contractors, bought steel for both buildings. When it crossed over the Canadian border, they had to pay a tariff, Trump's tariff. The contractor was warned when they went out to bid, you should carry 25% tariff, because that's what Trump has set for a tariff, which they did. But by the time they bought the steel, Trump doubled the tariff, so it went up to 50% tariff, They tried to put that cost on us. Unforeseen, town should pay it, it was like $90,000. And we said, no, We refused to pay it, put that on hold, put it aside, because the Supreme Court's looking at it. And if you've been watching, the Supreme Court has now come down and said all those tariffs are illegal. And so any companies who paid the tariff can now reapply to get reimbursed. So that's now all on our contract to take care of that. That's $90,000 bill that we didn't pay, and we're not going to have to pay. So just two examples of things that we're trying to do.
The BDAs.
And you can talk about the BDAs.
This week, so we meet weekly every Tuesday, and we have the developers, we have the contractors, we have the project managers, members of the DPW, our department, town manager, and Sean. And so the BDAs, bidirectional amplifiers, they're basically, we only have two in town. We have one in the high school, one in Cape Cod Lumber. And what it is, it's an interior antenna that it amplifies the signal. So like when we go deep into Walmart, you can't hear our radios half the time because of interference. We had in the budget that we were going to we need two of them based on the building. We tested it last week, Captain Cotter did, it was terrible. We worked with Holbrook Communications, we're gonna be able to put a repeater antenna up off the radio tower for the police. Long story short, we're able to save that, so there's a refund request that was just done this week for over $60,000. So every week we're doing this stuff, and we have a punch list of it, and I sent you guys in an email a little bit, just, it's minutia to look at, but just to let you know the oversight, what we're doing every single week. We're on every single item. We're gonna continue to do that.
Yep. So one of the things that I will share these with the committee, the chief sent them to me, I haven't had a chance to dig deep into them yet and ingest them, but he sent weekly agenda for this past week's as an example of the things they go through, and then a couple of other documents.
Don't dig too deep, because it'll change by next week, I guarantee you, I guarantee you.
Well, but just as examples of the level of detail that they go into on a week-by-week basis to try to be fiscally responsible and keep the costs of the project down, which I know that and I think the rest of the members of this committee are very appreciative of, and I know that the citizens of the town appreciate us
We're
trying.
working hard, thank
us
you.
trying to do that, so.
Okay.
I also wanted to say, especially for the viewers at home, this is an incredibly important vote. And if you read it now, we are not asking to be given $1.6 million out of the operating budget. We're not taking $1.6 million away from every other department. Town manager and the finance director could have proposed that as a solution, but that would have been penny-wise, pound-foolish.
Devastating.
It would have been devastating to other departments. They could have said, oh, add it as another override, but that would have been devastating, and you don't want to do that. Another thing you could have done is to take it out of stabilization, but that wouldn't be good financial planning. So luckily, there is a state law that allows towns to borrow money just for this purpose. If you're cleaning up a municipal property, you're allowed by law to borrow it over 10 years. We don't know what the interest rate's going to be yet, so we can't tell you exactly what the annual payment will be, but it's already budgeted in the operating budget this year, the level service budget, level funded budget, the level funded budget. So it's already in. So assume Abby had brought this up, that, what's the cost? If it was a zero interest, it'd be $160,000 for 10 years. Let's say it's 200,000 just because of interest. Maybe it's a little less than that. The total debt service budget is 7.2 million. So this is not a huge increase, that amount, and it's within the budget. So this is not an override. This is in the budget at level funded, level funded.
Right.
Right.
Except we go out to borrow for it.
Yes, the treasurer will do that and get the best bargain. They refinance it occasionally when you get things. Sometimes they bundle things, they can do all that stuff.
And as we discussed last week, and this is important for people listening to know, we aren't, the day after town meeting, if this is approved, we're not going out and borrowing $1.6 million.
Right.
We know there's ballpark 600,000 that, because of the overages so far, we will definitely spend. The other million approximately of that, we won't spend unless we have to.
Right,
And if
It's
this
contingent.
does not pass,
Yeah.
it opens the town up for a huge liability.
that's your fourth option.
Yes.
Do nothing. And we've been in touch with town council and said, what happens? And without getting too much detail, because there's a lot of people that have contracts with the town right now, from the general contractor, to the electrician, to the plumber, to the engineer, to the architect, we would be obligated to notify them, if this doesn't pass, that the project, we don't have enough money to finish because we had to pay those soil contamination bills, which would open up the town to a bunch of contract defaults. The project would stop, you'd have shells of 2 buildings, and to even restart the project at a later date will cost you more than $1.6 million. There's gonna be remobilization, there's gonna be higher construction costs, all that stuff. I don't mean to threaten anyone or bully anyone, but that's just the fact, that if it doesn't pass, it's gonna cost us more. So, I mean, kudos to the town manager and to the finance director to come up with a way to pay for this borrowing within the budget. And it will help us solve the problem. It also does not give us any extra money into our building budget. It's putting back what the townspeople had already budgeted for actual construction. We just had to use some of that construction money to pay the immediate bills.
Emily?
Hi, Emily.
Hi. Okay. Sorry, I'm catching up a little bit because I unexpectedly wasn't here last week. So
You missed a shout.
the amount, I would have rather been here, trust me. The amount that we owe is 600,000. Rough, I mean, we're ballparking here. So I know you folks can stand up there and explain all this at town meeting, but I think it does cloud, the extra million, I think, is where it's a little cloudy.
Yep.
Because it's hard to say, well, we owe 600,000, we're asking for 1.6, but we're not borrowing that 1 million. That's a very hard thing to reconcile.
Because we don't owe 600,000 right now. What Taylor said, our project manager said that we're currently, if we keep paying for all our bills and completed construction, at this point right now, we'd be 600,000, we are 600,000 short because we wrote checks for $1.6 million to clean the site, pay the LSPs, licensed site professionals who come out and test everything, and to pay the disposal sites. So as we sit here today, if we stopped everything today, we still have money in the bank, okay?
Right.
So what he was saying about 600,000 was his budget forecast of, if you don't get the 1.6, that $600,000 liability is gonna continue to grow. You won't have enough to cover it at the end of time. So it is confusing, but he was just giving a snapshot of where we were now. So the 1.6, when these bills came up, which totaled 1.6, first thing we did was start paying it out of our contingency. Then we started taking it out of basically the architect,
Furniture.
yeah, everything, like at the end, like we're eventually gonna run out of money, not pay the final set of bills.
Right, but so what was the contingency budget before? And then how much over, because I know it was broken down where like it was specifically the soil removal. So how much more was that, where did those numbers line up? Because the logical question is, if we are specifically $600,000 over the original contingency budget, why not just ask for 600,000? We need an additional million for additional contingency?
Like additional expected bills for the construction of these buildings, yes. If you gave.
So are we 1.6 million above the contingency that we had set?
We've spent the contingency.
Right.
And we're 1.6 in debt, basically. Yes.
To finish the project.
The 1.6 replenishes our contingency, replenishes all the line items that we borrowed money from. So we go back to being whole.
Right, so, but why are we replenishing the contingency when like this is what the contingency should be used
So we
for?
did talk about that last week. So what
Okay.
they did, before they awarded the bid, in order to award that bid, they needed to get rid of a bunch of things furniture, what were the other?
Contingency was lower than it, we'd normally like to have a 3 to 4% contingency, we had about a 2% contingency. We were very tight, we knew that going in. So, and then also, what makes it more confusing, and I apologize, is the bid documents go out, our architect says, dear contractor, you should anticipate 1,000 cubic tons of earth materials will have to be removed, no matter whether they're dirty or not. They have to be removed because when you build a building, you have to dig out all what they call unsuitable materials. You can't put it on mush or, soft stone. So you dig a hole, like if even building a house, you dig a hole, you get down to hard pan, and then you fill it back with clean gravel that the foundation will sit on. They had to do the same thing for all the buildings, the 3 buildings, the salt shed, the DPW, and the fire station. They said, in general terms, anticipate 1,000 cubic yards. It went more than that in some locations, especially out back, because we uncovered that the town was dumping on private property.
Right.
Someone had said, well, when you found this stuff, why didn't you just stop? Well, some of the stuff we didn't find, as they were clearing, remember, one of the first things we did was demolish the DPW building. There are no the old ones are gone. And then after the buildings were down, they brought in a company to dig up the old cement floors. What did we find under the cement floors? 2 old pistons large pistons that were apparently used to hoist cars or trucks back in the day. They buried them underneath the building, encased in concrete, and there was a hydraulic fuel spill and an asbestos pipe that led to nowhere. But it was there, so we are now responsible to remove the asbestos pipe, which means call in DEP. It means roping off the air and testing all the soils around it, and same thing with the hydraulic fluid. I learned through this process that asbestos is a naturally occurring element, that there is asbestos in the air we breathe and even in clean soil. But most of it is not unhealthy because it doesn't go above a certain threshold. But when you find asbestos shingles, like we did out back, or asbestos pipes, hold the phone, you have to stop and dig this out. So at that point, the buildings are gone. We have to take these things out, and we're moving forward, and this is the best financial proposal to make us whole to finish.
Sure.
So I think to Emily's question is, are we putting back in with this vote, are we putting back in contingency money that brings us to having contingency again? If
Sounds like-
that's the case, should we lower the number to not have contingency, which we did
Well-
talk about last week, and you don't want to not have contingency because, as we've
Oh,
seen,
well-
things don't always go exactly as planned.
Sure. And I'm just playing devil's advocate
No,
here.
I like that.
In part because it helps me understand, but I think I know you're saying, oh, we had a lower contingency than maybe we should have, but like, that's what the town agreed to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I want to make sure I'm understanding that, like, by, obviously we should pay what we had to pay, what we owe for the soil cleanup, but to then add another, million or however much is going into the contingency. I mean, the budget for the project is increasing, right? And so I just want to be clear that, like, was it last year when this was voted on?
Several years.
Several years ago, okay, when it was voted on,
24.
the town agreed to that 3-4% contingency. When you run into things and you use it, it's like, okay, extenuating circumstances, we went over, let's borrow, put it back. But like, this is a multi-year project. So hypothetically, if something like this were to happen every year, right, suddenly it's a domino effect of we keep putting money in contingency more and more, and then someone, 10 years down the road looks back and they're like, originally the town agreed to this number, but then we just kept adding to the contingency bit by bit, so it ballooned. And like, that's not good financial sense either.
So we're not adding $1.6 million to our contingency fund.
No, I know.
I would love it if you could, but we
But
can't.
so in my head though, right?
Yeah.
Like, if this line item, soil removal, cost 50,000, and our contingency was 25 or whatever.
400,000, let's use a number.
Well, yeah, I'm tired and numbers are hard. So, okay, so, it cost 500,000, and we had, 250,000 in contingency. Great. Like, obviously it makes sense. 250, we need to borrow more. But the extra, right? Like, where does that kind of fall in the necessity? Like, why don't we just, if something unexpected happens, like, why don't we just borrow that amount again? Like what's
Yeah.
so instead of like preemptively borrowing more than we need?
No.
Andrew is so excited to answer my question.
Yes.
All right, sorry.
So the vote is to authorize up to 1.6 million. It's not borrowing 1.6 million. It's just the authorization to go up to 1.6 million if necessary.
Okay.
Yeah.
If
Got it.
That- and
Thank
that
you.
was what I
borrowing
was-
capacity
That
isn't
was what I
needed.
Thank
was
you.
trying-
That is what I needed.
So if it's not needed.
That's what I was
it will not be
trying to
used.
say earlier and did not say well.
The goal is, you're always going to have expenditures out of your contingency budget.
Got it.
I was on the school building committee, town hall building committee, and police station building committee. As a school as an example, and Greg was on that committee, we had, everyone, you always have a contingency budget, because things come up. The plumber complains that this wasn't in the contract.
Oh,
that's
no,
an
of
extra.
course. Yeah. I mean,
We ended that project with money left in our contingency. So we didn't borrow the whole authorization.
okay.
Like, money didn't go back into anywhere, it just
Like,
didn't
it-
get borrowed.
Right, it was not borrowed and then we had to.
I'm
pay
hoping to be able to report to you at the end of this project, we built this within the original
Yep.
budget. The 1.6 paid for that extra. Let me put it another way. If we didn't have the soil issues that we did, the 1.6 million, our project is on budget.
Yeah.
It's on budget and would have a contingency to get us through the rest of the project. But for the pistons, the asbestos, the soils, the things we found, we'd be fine.
I have a little dinosaur brain. How much did everybody vote on this for? The
Vote on
total
the-
cost?
The construction project was 38.5 million
Yeah, all right.
for the fire station, the new DPW, and the salt shed.
Yep, so 38 and a half. How much have we borrowed out of the 38 and a half?
We have a ban out for the rest of the, for that amount.
All right, great, thanks. Is the,
What? Sorry,
no, go ahead.
translate that for people at home.
Yeah.
Right, so we have a temporary borrowing, similar to when we were talking about South Shore Tech, how they were gonna go interest only for a couple years, just to wait for, see how the market goes, how interest rates are. The town has done a temporary borrowing.
Yep.
So it's an interest-only borrowing for the full project cost, because we're, in the air now, so all those costs are gonna come in pretty fast.
Got it.
So
We could continue to borrow to appease what you need, correct?
The 38.5 would not pay for the buildings and the 1.6 in soil.
But we're not even close to there right now. What have we spent? Roughly.
Yeah, no.
I'm not gonna hold you to like anything, just rough. 10 million, 5 million, 2 million?
It's really hard for me to know. Taylor could have told us, but I don't know.
do I wanna say
I don't have the last change.
So 15 million, so half.
Let's say it is, yeah,
Right.
half.
So, one, do we have to do this right now? And I mean.
what?
Is this 1.6
This additional,
right? Could we say, hey, can we look and see if this is gonna be a problem for us at the end? And I don't mean at the end because I'm hearing that this is not gonna be done in this year,
It's going to be done in this fiscal year, yes.
this fiscal, sorry.
It's going,
Calendar
the
year.
schedule is that
Yes.
the fire station's on schedule. It
Yep.
should be ready for occupancy in April or May of 2027.
Right.
Which means we'll have bills in April, May, and June to pay.
Yep,
The DPW building
before that.
is going to be ready before that. We just don't know whether it's going to be December or January yet. We're still waiting for that to happen. So all those, when a guy finishes a job, they send you a bill. And when we sign those contracts, the town signs off and says, yes, we have the funds available.
but we have no shortage of money right now.
Well, the one.
The project can move forward.
That's what I'm saying. So I'm just trying to make sure that my little dinosaur brain,
Can this go
So-
to special town meeting
well,
then?
so I was gonna say, if the project is on track to end before next year's annual town meeting, which is, I think, what we're saying,
yep,
then the options would be to vote on this now at the annual town meeting on May 4th, or vote on it at special town meeting in the fall, if we even have a special town meeting in the fall.
You would have to
Those
call
are,
a special
those
town
are,
meeting.
Yeah.
those are the only two options.
But it's really not an option, because what are you gonna do at special town meeting? We don't have an extra $1.6 million in stabilization.
I just think
funds, but-
everybody functions better with their back against the wall, right?
Hopefully.
And so
I think
that,
it's
and I don't think
No.
that you're not,
Yep.
again, like, I think you've done a good job with it.
I understand all the, but All right, so back to my first question, 38.5 million. Is the project 38.5 million with this?
No, no.
So this is a $40 million project.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right, so that's all everybody keeps saying no. But it is yes.
Well, no, I said.
So it's a
if we
40
didn't
million
have
yeah,
this,
got
the
it.
project
All right.
is on budget and on time.
Got it.
We did have this, so it
But we
is-
did have
So-
this.
So it is a $40 million project at this point.
I have just a hypothetical question for those of you who've been through this before, because I think given the context of what everyone is going to be voting on, I think it makes it harder, or there's more competition, I don't know the right word, but, you know, we have to, each of these articles, you know, people have to be bought into so do we think it might be easier to pass something, like Greg said, back is up against a wall, we're 600,000 over, we need to vote yes on this, rather than, you know, in the mind of the taxpayer, like potentially authorizing another million for the project? Like, do we think separating those?
So, just quick to that and to your point about what Greg's saying. I think what Greg is saying more is that if we don't vote on this now and have this hanging out until when we would have a special town meeting, people will be operating more fiscally responsibly.
Not even that. Yeah,
their-
yes,
with
but
their-
also
with
like,
their
hey, you know
back to
what?
the
We might
wall.
have to
I
do
don't have this
we might have to do
involved.
X, X, or X, and we might have to take away X, X, or X. And again, the only reason why is because I remember for a while, the town didn't want to say yes to this project in the 40s. They didn't want to say yes to it in the 50s or 60s or what. And so it's there. And so that's the only reason I even bring this up, is because I remember talking to Scott, and this is a $38.5 million project. And I said, is this going over? And he goes, no. And I said, it's impossible. It's a government, you know, funded, not government funded. It's gonna go over. I mean, it will. And it's not because of you.
Yeah.
It's because of what happens in this. I don't have to clean up if I want to do it at my house, I don't have to do what you guys had to clean up, and I could have buried it. So you guys can't. And I don't, and again, I'm not saying you're doing anything negative. I just mean, this town didn't want a 4 starting with this project, from my understanding. And it was never even being brought up. It got brought up in the 3s.
So to that, I think the prior town manager felt that the project would struggle to pass if the number was in the 40s. And so he wanted the number to be in the 30s.
No, I get
But
it.
it was not something that the town ever rejected.
No, yeah, it never just, it was something
Something
that.
that was not presented to the town because the feeling of the
Correct.
prior
That's
town
what I mean.
manager and of a lot of people was that the project needed to be at a lower cost than what was.
And I think we even threw in DPW. So again, everybody's done a great job with this.
Yeah.
It's more of, you know, can we, if we can't come back for the next year, we can't come back for the next year and try this to figure this out. I would rather
can't.
that be an option.
We have the issue now.
But we have money
But we
right
have
now.
the money
We have
to
money.
pay the
So
bill.
so in my brain, you have money in
Wait.
your bank account.
Let me-
It's
hang-
not a
hang on,
bank
Greg.
account
Well, you have
anymore.
money in your loan
So,
bank account.
so
It's the same
Greg,
thing.
picture it more this way. You have money in your budget for your family from now until the end of December.
Mm-hmm.
And that money does not cover the bills that you have outstanding from now through December. It'll cover from now till November, but it won't cover December.
Yeah, no, I get it. My point is, you might have to get rid of Netflix. You might have to get rid of, you know, there's stuff that you might have to do. That's my point. My point is to
We have
keep.
gotten rid of those things
We
though,
have.
and I think that
Yeah.
then it puts us in a position of liability. We've signed contracts that we're able to have this amount of work done. And my concern is, we know about this issue right now, and we kick the can down the road, kick the can down the road, kick the can down the road. It doesn't, fiscally, planning-wise, doesn't make sense to me why we wouldn't take care of an issue that we have now, why we wouldn't take care of
Because
that
we,
issue now.
in my opinion, we in essence do not have the issue right now.
We
Well,
do.
We know
Contractually,
about it.
No,
Contractually,
but
we
we
know
don't.
about it, and we're not, and
Do we have any lack of money to deal with this 1.6 million?
we've already paid the 1.6 because you had to pay it.
No, I know,
You had
I'm
to.
saying, like-
So now,
Yeah.
we're left with, instead of 38.5, let's use the math differently, now we have 36.9.
Sure.
But we signed contracts with all these contractors that said, we'll pay you 38.5. So if this doesn't pass, we don't get the funding, at some point, we have to notify.
No,
them.
but that's not true because we had a contingency in there.
Yes, but that's part of the
But that was part of the-
38.5.
That's part of the, no, but
So let's
that's
just-
my point. So we've spent the contingent, this is if things go over and above what we've already what we've already done.
which they
It
have.
has.
We're 600,000 over the contingency.
Right.
That was
The
my,
contingency, I thought
Right
was
now.
1.7 million.
Yes. We're 600,000 over.
Can we
what the
just circle back to
so the 600,000, if the whole project, hold on. If the whole project was,
Stopped right now.
let's just say 40 million. Right now, with the cost of the soil, it is 40.6 million.
40.1. Oh, because,
No.
well, no, it's still
Yeah.
40.1.
We're 600, we spent the contingency,
What
which
she's
was in
saying
the
is,
40.
to use round numbers.
Yeah,
if
I'm
we
just
were at
using- yeah.
40, what the costs
Okay.
that we have
Oh, I see.
accrued and
Yeah.
contracts and everything right now is at 40.
38.5, 1.6 of that was contingency. We had
No.
to spend,
No, I don't know what the
No,
contingency
because we were
was.
told it was. Like, am I missing
No,
something?
no.
No.
Look,
What was the
I-
contingency budget?
The $600,000, I wish we would put that aside, because that was a different, an answer to a different question. So the 38.5, and I don't have the budget, the complete budget in front of me, I apologize. Let's just say construction costs were approximately 31,000 to build the buildings and to do the site work.
31,000.
And the other
Million.
remaining money pays your architects, pays your bonding fees, pays your professional management, pays the engineers, you know, all those, what they call soft costs, which are still costs. So if this soil issue never came up, if we didn't find the pistons, if we didn't find the asbestos, we didn't find all those goodies underground, we're on budget. And we have a contingency left over to get us from now to the end of the project. Because things are gonna come up, like I said, the tariff
changes,
control is
the-
different.
yeah,
And we push back and get credits on certain things. Right now, as we stand here today, with a $31 million construction contract, our total change orders are approximately $400,000, which is about 1% of the entire project, which is actually excellent. That's how good our professional management team is working on this. They had no control of what was buried. The other part of it is, you know, people should be accountable. Yes, you should go after, you typically, when you find something like that, you go after the landowner that put that stuff in the ground. Well, guess what? The landowner is the town of Abington. They're the ones that put the stuff in the ground. So now the town has to pay for it. We don't have anyone to go chase. I will tell you also, we've been working with Michael's office, Congressman Lynch's office, looking for any sort of grant funding that could reimburse us. If that comes to fruition, he doesn't have to borrow the 1.6 million, but we don't have that answer yet. But we know the bills are coming, so you need to fund the 1.6 million to make it whole, and we can move forward. We're still working, we have a list of there's some state grants that might apply, but they're overseen by the EPA, which is federal. So we're not gonna get an answer in 30 days.
You can't go forward on bad faith.
No, we'd be in default of the contract. At some
Cannot go
point, we have
forward
to
on bad
notify.
faith. That is what it comes down to. You cannot go forward on bad faith. And currently, you know that you are in the red.
The town council, I asked town council, this is a statement that he wanted me to read and sum it up. The purpose of this article is to provide additional borrowing authority as a result of the discovery of significant amount of contamination at the site that the town was required to remediate. This was an extraordinary unforeseen circumstance, and the project could not have been completed unless and until this site cleanup work was done. Unfortunately, having to pay these extra costs means it will eventually run out of money before the project is completed. The building committee is working with the town manager's office to determine if there is any state grant funding or federal funding to cover all or some of this work, but we cannot count on it at this point. We therefore need this additional borrowing authorization to ensure that the project can be seen through completion. Otherwise, if we cannot pay the contractors to finish the work, the project will stand as it is today in a state of partial completion, and the town risks being subject to lawsuits from unpaid contractors. That's it in a nutshell. If we are successful, if the 1.6 doesn't pass, we're gonna have to notify and shut down the project. Because we can't in good faith keep moving, say, hey, guys, keep working. And you can put all that work into it, at some point, we're gonna just say, now we're out.
And the project manager's been here, so he knows. It's not like you're hiding this from anyone.
This is
very public. This is, you know.
Right, and the second part of it is if we get the 1.6 and kind of put us back in where we were and move forward, it is everyone's hope that we do have money left over, so we don't have to borrow the whole 1.6.
So we would shut this down if this says no. There's no.
Yeah,
What?
I have to be careful because town
Yes.
council doesn't want us to talk about the repercussions publicly because there is probably some people out in work for some of these contractors, but I have to explain it to you.
But that's why,
If we don't have the money to set aside to cover the costs of the contracts that we put out, we have to stop.
You know you don't have the money.
It's like
You
check
know
kiting.
that you have, right, you
No, but
know.
it's not though. It's the last check,
It'd be similar to, say, you sign a
right? So
contract,
that's the part to me that I'm confused about.
because you sign a
Isn't this
contract.
the last check?
You sign a contract, well, yes, in some means, but you sign a contract to buy an $800,000 home, subject to you getting approved for a $600,000 mortgage. Your bank says, I'll give you 500, that's it. At one point, you have to tell the seller, I can't afford this. I can't. I'm not gonna wait till the day of the closing when the last check is due. Well, you know, you don't. You have an obligation that you are now in breach of contract. You know you're in.
And it's out there very publicly that we would be in breach of contract.
Now, would we continue, Greg, for 30 days to try to weather tight as much as we could? Because those buildings are now going to sit there for 3 years, 4 years, 5 years? I don't know what the process would be. I've never had to deal with this. This is totally unforeseen. But again, I go back to, this is a fiscally prudent response and solution to this by using the debt service money that's in our budget and utilizing that statute to cover it. We can afford this under our budget without going out for an override or any other wacky other way to do this. It makes sense and it keeps us moving forward. I'm happy to bring you, any one of you, through the site at any time. I'm happy to come in here every 2 months and give you an update, but this is a necessary thing. I'm a taxpayer too. I pay taxes on my house and I pay taxes on my law office. I'm not thrilled that, this is an extra cost. And this is like I said, fourth building. This is really the first one we've had an issue like this. First one we had an issue.
Can
like
I,
this.
two arguments against putting it off and voting now.
Yep.
But they're just my two. You put it off. Everyone knows you put it off. No guarantee that in special town meeting, it's gonna pass.
Right.
So all these people now know, they may not be enough money at the end. They gotta vote, maybe they'll get it for us, maybe they won't. But this sort of cements it and says, yes, it'll be there. Second, just taking what we absolutely need with no more contingency. Well, that makes a lot of sense, but then if something happens, we're right back where we were. Now we have to have a special town meeting, and
Got
people.
another expense.
Yeah.
Well, to be clear, it's not that I think that's a good idea.
No, I know. No,
It's that
yeah.
if the options are,
Yeah.
this doesn't pass and the projects get abandoned and it sits there, or it does,
Okay.
I'm thinking, to Greg's point, people react more when their backs are against the
Yeah.
wall. I mean, we're looking at a lot of votes, and you can say this is not an override request till you're blue in the face. And I don't know how people are gonna reconcile that in their mind, because 1.6 million just sounds like a lot of money, right? So what I'm saying is if it really is that big of a risk factor, and I'm not saying it's a bad idea, but I think there is an argument to be made of whether it's, you just said it was 400, whatever, whether it's 400,000 or 600,000, just getting something and closing the gap. And then, if something else comes up, it's not necessarily that we would have to go to special, but to Greg's point, that's when maybe you're this project is now at already at, close to 40 and like we start trimming at the end, like there still seems to be, we've only spent
Not if you don't
15.
vote that, though.
Yeah.
You
But,
can't just step, you can't just go finish it, what you
yeah,
were saying.
I was just thinking that, yes, if you knew it was gonna be 600,000, you'd vote for 600, but we don't. And we just end up having to have a special town meeting where we have to explain, yeah, we asked for 600,000 the last time. Now we're over again,
If you gave us
And,
600,000 right now, that doesn't help.
yeah.
It doesn't help, because all it does is bring us to the black with absolutely no contingency to finish 2 buildings with 8 more months of
Which
construction.
I understand is
That
unlikely.
you,
It helps.
please
It
explain
doesn't.
about.
It does help.
It doesn't finish.
It does.
It doesn't fix the problem, and you still are you're in the black with no furniture.
So was
There's
this,
no contingency,
hold
there's
on.
going
was,
to be,
was,
Hang on.
was this the
Abby
phase
had-
1 contingency?
sorry,
Is there
but
more
Abby-
contingency?
Abby
there was
had-
both, but we're talking general, all over budget.
Also, like, I think, because I was a little apprehensive, but I think, with, Andrew, thank you, I'm so sorry.
It's okay.
It's been a long day. I think with Andrew pointing out that it's an up to, I feel like it's been,
That has not been clear, though.
that's not been
In
clear
the
the
way
whole
that
time.
we
And
have
I know that a lot of work's been put into this warrant, but I feel like if it can be
No, you're right, because,
reward.
well, the
reworded
motion
a
can be
bit.
that, easy enough. In fact, any dollar amount that's in a budget is always an up to.
I feel like the up to is a lot, and because I know, and I hate this whole, like it's not an override, but like it is still money out of the taxes and all of that. So I do hate
Yeah.
that wording, just because that. But I do feel like the up to makes it like a lot more easier to swallow. But I want a little more clarification. I feel like a lot of people have been jumping in and out of every which way. I feel like we got onto the special town election, so can we clarify if it's not up until there? Just why not?
Say that again?
The special town meeting, why we can't do
Why, we can't do the
that.
special town meeting?
Yes, just,
You'd essentially be asking to do the exact same thing we're asking now. The only other 2 options I already previously mentioned is to cut $1.6 million out of every other operating budget and give it to us, and if we have some back, have some left over with our contingency at the end, we'll give it back. By that time, it's too late for the teachers and the firemen and
Yeah.
police. The other option is to take 1.6 out of stabilization and then say, okay, now that project's whole, and we'll have to get one, supplement our stabilization later. That's very difficult to do. The stabilization budget, well, you guys determine that. And we put there as a savings account. We want to kind of protect as much as we can. And you're already using some of that with some necessities in the capital plan.
Yes.
So if cutting the operating budget is not a real option, I mean, it's an option, but it's not a real option. If taking money out of the stabilization is not a real option, the best thing to do is to borrow a time using the debt service in the budget. Like I said, it's less than $200,000 out of 7.2 million, so we're not ganging up on things. So really, when you say we're approving 1.6 override, it's really, we're authorizing a $200,000 payment for the next 10 years, roughly,
Sean, do you have the debt schedule?
for, if we
Do you
borrow.
have the debt schedule? No, for what's coming on, what's falling off, where
don't.
we're at.
Yeah, I have to print that.
I
Okay.
feel like they were saying at one point a lot was falling off this year.
I don't
I
know
don't
that
know
it
if
was
a lot
this
is falling
year.
off this year.
Within the
but
next
in
2 or 3 years anyhow,
There's stuff
there's
coming
money
off.
being opened up. So that
But-
was, I believe, one of the reasons that this was most fiscally prudent for us to do.
And I just
And-
wanted to finish the conversation about why the October meeting or November meeting was not
Well,
a good time to do this.
So let's say that the town meeting doesn't pass it on May 4th.
Yeah.
And in your hypothetical, we just continue, telling them, oh, it's okay, keep going, keep building, we'll keep writing checks, but now our remaining budget, let's assume we paid 15,000, we have 15 million, we have 15 million less, and all of a sudden, as the months go by, we're draining money. If we have a town meeting in November, October, we're still gonna ask for 1.6, maybe it's 1.4. As the project gets closer to the end, we know more about the
The numbers.
contingency, right? Yeah, that we've paid so much bills, there's really no room for any more changes, because all the plumbing's in, all the electric's in, the roof is on, all that stuff. You know more as you get to the end, like in any construction project. So now you're still at the end looking for 1 point something million dollars. And where's it gonna come from at that point? The same answers that I just described. You're either gonna take it out of stabilization, or you're gonna borrow over the 10-year program using the statute that's intended for this.
Okay, so the assumption is that I don't know what the previous contingency budget was, but we think that, I mean, because that description doesn't line up with, oh, like, we're not gonna need all that money. So you're thinking that we are going to use the full 1.6. Like, how did we arrive at that number, basically?
1.6 was the total number of invoices we paid for it's not all contaminated soil, it's called impacted soil. Soils that had to be removed from the property and brought to special websites, including bringing the telephone poles that were buried, had creosote, those got shipped to Maine, including the asbestos shingles. I don't know where those got shipped, but those, there's different things. All those extra costs above and beyond what we had budgeted for soil removal, it was 1.6. Now, to pay that 1.6, okay?
Well, no, okay, hold on. So
We
can
use
we
that
just,
contingency and a lot
Right.
of other line items.
okay, so what was the contingency?
It was, I want to say it was about 2%.
2 is 770.
What's that?
2 is 770. 2% is
2% is
770.
No, it was less than that then. It was, well, because there's an owner's contingency and there's I forget the name of I wish Taylor was there. Let's use them and say 500,000, okay, roughly. Might have been
Okay.
600.
So I just want to be clear, in the red right now, because I've heard 400,000, I've heard 600,000, and now you say 1.6. So how much?
If we
So
go,
real quick to that, 1.6 was the amount of cost over the expected removal cost for the soil. So
Okay,
that specific piece was over by 1.6.
if you told me, Sean, here's a checkbook, write whatever checks you need to build a fire station, a DPW, a
Okay.
salt shed, and take care of any unforeseen things that come up, I would be writing checks for 38.5 million plus 1.6 million,
okay,
okay? Because that unforeseen thing came up. Now, the 38.5 may have been 38.3 because we didn't spend all of our contingency in a perfect world, right? So again, if those soil conditions didn't come up, the project is on budget and we'd have some money in our contingency right now
okay.
to get us through the end of the project. But if the 1.6 borrowing is not authorized, this article just authorizes them to borrow, then we will be either in or approaching contractual default.
Right. Okay, so we were 1.6 in the red just from that one. So we would basically be resetting the original contingency.
That's exactly.
How far, like, I hate, like, percentage wise,
Yep.
how far into the project are we? Like, is that whole contingency basically, how did we arrive at 1.6, right? Like, I understand that's what we're over, but like, is the entire contingency still needed? If we're 75% the way through the project,
Right.
I would argue
And-
no.
Right, and that's where
Because,
it'd be
as you
more
said-
likely that we won't have to borrow the 1.6, but we're
Right.
trying to get to
So
whole.
that goes to Abby's up to
Yes.
point of.
Sure.
We won't use.
But the
that
number we're
example.
putting in front of people is 1.6,
The number we're
and I
putting-
think the default
But the number we're-
pessimism,
The number, and I will be clear to point this out at town meeting, is up to 1.6.
I think unfortunately,
Yes.
the default pessimism is that if I vote, if we as a town vote for you to authorize up to 1.6, like,
But that.
yeah, yeah, but then
So
we're
the-
gonna spend it,
So the
so.
thing that we will point out, like Sean was referring to, when we built the new school, we had, I think it was up to 94 point something million, and we spent
Under budget.
92 something.
Yeah.
We did not spend and we did not borrow
Sure.
all of it. So our track record, and you referred, I think, the library, and here was an under budget project. Our track record as a town in working on these projects is to come in under budget.
In our track record right now as a committee, and as a project, is if all things stay the same, take the 1.6, the soils out of the project. As I mentioned, we're only at about 2% of change orders, which is great. So we have money, if we didn't have to deal that, we would have money in our contingency right now. And we expect there's gonna be other changes that come up. They do. And there's also gonna be other credits that come up. But you need to have that wiggle room so that you don't fall into default. If I could predict the future, I'd tell you exactly how much of the 1.6, but the 1.6 puts us back to equilibrium. And we can finish the project, and we can, legally, we still can say, yes, we have the money to pay the bills, please keep working. If the town says no to this, we don't have the money to finish the project, so at some point, well, like I said, we'll
At some
town
point,
council
we
have to
have to
guide
say
us
stop.
and say, stop. Shut it down, send you notices, and then frankly, the town will get sued from multiple parties. And I don't want to see that, and I hate, we're in a horrible position, but this is the best resolution, and it's frankly the cheapest resolution. It's a little less than $200,000 in this budget, how big is our budget this year? Seven?
So is this already in
So,
the fiscal
It's
year?
already in the fiscal year budget.
Okay.
Yes.
So Floyd, you had something
I think.
a little bit ago, sorry.
Well, it got asked
Right.
or answered, but it was quick. The question was, this money is just for the first phase, the 1.6, the up to?
It's the first phase of the project was just our construction terms of building the salt shed, building
Yep.
the new driveway, and putting in the new fuel station.
But it was within that first stage, or first phase, that the soil samples and everything came out.
Most of it, but then you had the other ones underneath the old DPW building,
Yep.
which was the pistons
pistons
and
and the
hazardous
hydro-
waste and stuff like that. So it's a mixture of both phases, but to us, it's one project.
Right, okay. I know nothing of building things like these, so my questions are pretty simple, I would say. Is it normal to pull contingency out of that main 38.5? Is
Yes.
that a normal practice?
Yes, it's good practice. It's almost required practice.
Okay. My
We
only
also-
reason why I ask is because I would think if we're saying this building we're building and everything in it is 38.5 million, here's our contingency money, it's on the side.
Yes, like you wouldn't go out and sign a contract with a general contractor for 38.5 million.
Right.
You are doomed for failure because there's gonna be change orders.
Right.
Unforeseen things.
So then my follow-up for that would be, if that's the case, then how are we over budget if that contingency money was used for a contingency purpose, other than the fact that we're 600,000 over?
We're well over.
I thought we were 1.6 over.
Well, up to 1.6, right?
We are,
Because that's what we're asking for?
If
Am I-
the 1.6 is not refunded into our construction budget, we will not be able to pay our bills. We will have,
Okay.
that 1.6 puts money back in our contingency, but also puts money back in all those line items that we had to steal money from to pay those bills.
Right.
Let's not use the word steal.
You know, yeah,
so,
reallocate.
Reallocate.
to Emily's question, and somewhat to Floyd's question, whatever the contingency was, and we don't have the exact number,
I
the
apologize.
contingency was less than 1.6 million.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
1.6 million went over what the contingency was, and so we spent that plus extra. And so this request of the town, the warrant article, is to restore what we know would get the budget back to, the budget for the whole project back to essentially where it was.
The
We're adding-
38.5.
We're adding
Right.
in the cost that we know we went significantly over, expecting that there will be some contingencies that we have, so that we're hoping to not spend up to the full 1.6 million, but knowing that the 1.6 million puts us back on track. The rest, outside of the soil removal, the rest of the project has been on/under budget. We're weekly meeting to keep the costs down on the project, to make sure that the cost comes in as low as possible and under what we expect, so that we're able to complete the project with this 1.6 million. Does that make sense?
Sure.
And moving forward in good faith.
Also, and this isn't to you because you had nothing to do with this, but we probably did a bad job with the contingency money,
In what way?
the percentage that we put away for this.
Well, you could,
But, so my point is, especially, well, because you said a minute ago, it's usually 5%, but we did too. I think going forward as a town, we don't ever do that again.
well,
And I'm not, again,
I don't-
this isn't directed at you, this
no,
is
no, no, I
directed
know.
out into the whatever, because that's, when stuff doesn't go well, you're now looking at, like I said before, this town didn't want a $40 million project.
Yeah, yeah.
And so when this stuff happens, that's what you get. And so if we can't plan it and everybody can't get behind it, in the beginning, when everybody's voting to say, yes, we need this, it is a little bit of a smoke and mirrors. Again, not from you, but it is smoke and mirrors, because if something doesn't go great, these are the things that everybody's gonna have to deal with.
but, no, I push back on the smoke and mirrors,
What I mean by
comparison. know
smoke
what
and
you
mirrors,
know
I
what you
mean saying
but-
$38.5 million when everybody knows it's really not gonna be.
No.
Because I called BS on that in the beginning, and they said, nope, it's 100%, and it's just, that's what's gonna happen.
But no, it goes back to the point that I've been saying all night. The project is on budget.
Yeah.
It is on budget. So our contingency is in effect. We've spent some of our contingency on, remember I said we were at, what did I say, 400,000 or so in contingency money, or change orders, I should say. But there's been, fluctuations because we get our $90,000 back, we get our $60,000 back, we get all this. This 1.6 does not put extra money into the construction budget from what we have
It just
already-
puts extra money into the entire budget.
Yeah, to pay the
Yeah.
bills,
Yeah,
because we had
wait,
to
But
take
whether
some
you
money
call
out.
it
Can I just-
construction or remediation or what, it's just like it's.
Cut through this.
Yeah,
If-
Chris.
You said that contingency budget is normally 3.5, and we did only 2. I suspect we did only 2 because we were trying to make it more palatable to the.
That's what I mean by
at
the
the
smoke and
beginning,
mirrors.
which is what.
Yep.
Great.
I don't mean that he's doing anything
Yeah.
smoke.
No,
and mirrors.
I know.
mean
I'm
in
taking
order to
that
get
away.
people to
But
vote for
at
this,
the
we
time,
need a
if
law.
we had had the correct contingency, it would have been 40 million for the whole
Well,
budget.
So if we could have foreseen that there would be $1.6 million of costs for soil
We should-
removal, then it
would've
would have been
asked for it.
40 million, and we
Yeah.
wouldn't be asking for it
No,
now.
but-
We would have asked for it, but
But if
that
we
was,
had.
like, for example, like I mentioned, the previous projects, the school project, this building, the police station, the library, those projects stayed below the contingency.
Right, and I think school
That
was
was-
about 3%.
That was, that
But what was the
that
contingency?
3% of it.
3%.
Yeah,
So we had a
that was
less
impacted.
contingency here.
Yeah, we're at 2 and 2.5,
So
and
I
I'll get you
think-
the
but-
numbers.
But again, it stayed below and there was money left at the
Yeah.
end.
Yeah.
More than that, so it was projecting based on previous projects and based on what was expected, that we would be able to stay under that contingency, and we were trying to present, not smoke and mirrors, but trying to present an accurate budget to the town.
Be as tight as possible.
That,
And I would tell
that-
you, thank God,
that we,
GNR Construction is our contractor. They're out of Hanover, and they have been fantastic to work with. They literally have approached us a few times and said, we can save you a little money if we do this way, things like that. And they've been straight up with us with everything.
Can they find 1.6 million?
No, unfortunately.
But whether or not it really should have been 40 million in the first place, or 38, doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
Where we are now,
Right.
right.
and we gotta do something now.
Our building
Or-
committee was formed after this project.
Yeah,
was
That's why I'm saying.
We
I
have
know
to do
that I
something
wanna-
now
I want to make sure
anyway.
everybody's clear that I'm not,
Yep.
Yeah.
you're,
Yeah.
like last week, you're the person, people sitting there.
I volunteered for this.
Yeah,
Let's just,
I'm sure you're pumped about it.
one way or the other.
I just want to make one other point. I don't want to belabor this, but, so when you have a project of this magnitude, the GC looks at the plans.
General contractor.
General contractor, pardon me, looks at the plans and then decides what needs to be ordered. All the stock is ordered. We own that, whether they finish the project or not.
Yep.
So all those costs are incurred. A lot of the big contracts, the cinder block, the stone, the cement, the steel, those people hold some of this because there's not enough room at site. But we own all that. They can't get into doing that project unless they have guarantees. And the guarantees are that, they order the stuff and they're gonna expect payment, so it's. I
And if
just
you
wanna-
tell them we're not gonna have money to pay you, so
Right.
send it back.
Yeah.
We're not gonna get dollar for dollar.
No.
The other thing I wanna make sure we understand, the repercussions of this, is if this article does not pass and we don't get the extra funding, the DPW has nowhere to go. The DPW buildings have been torn down. They're at North School right now in temporary facilities, which they're begging us to try to finish the new one, because this winter was tough to have diesel trucks outside and things like that. It's just horrible. If this doesn't pass, I told John Stone, I'm like, you're gonna be there for a few years until the town figures out how to pay this, but the 1.6 is gonna balloon if we try to do something later. I mean, I'm sorry I'm the bearer of the bad news, but I think we have the best
So,
opportunity in front of
The other
us.
thing, I wouldn't want to push this out to a later special town meeting, also because, if it fails at town meeting, we have got to have some time to figure out either taking it out of stabilization, like we have to come up with it,
What
right?
we're doing.
We have to pay it. So we cannot wait until the absolute 11th hour and be like, oh, we need to, and then, because then if they say no then, if the townspeople, if the citizens say no then, our back is absolutely against the wall. And to get money out of stabilization, which would really at that point be you're gonna need
You need a
Two-thirds vote.
Two-thirds vote and to call
At a
another.
special town meeting.
A special town meeting.
Are we
In-
having
in
a
this
special,
bar-
We cannot kid ourselves.
are we having a special town meeting in the fall for snow and ice?
No.
Or did that get dealt with? I thought we were waiting
Do we
for
know
money
yet?
back from the state.
I haven't heard from the state.
So
We don't know yet.
it's a two-thirds vote at this town meeting on Article 15 to authorize the borrowing for the $200,000 a year in our debt service budget. Or potentially it would be two-thirds vote to take it out of stabilization, and then you're gonna be left with 600,000 in your stabilization for our town. That's fiscal suicide.
No, it doesn't make
My
sense to do
opinion.
stabilization.
You're right.
But what option would you have though?
This is the
in
only
this-
option to do.
That's what
That's what I mean, like-
No, I'm saying, speaking against waiting until a special town meeting in the fall, the reason you would
We
speak
know-
against
we know
that
we
is
have-
because,
I appreciate these questions because people at home are listening to them and you're throwing questions out that people are saying at their sofas right now. But I'm hoping that as we're discussing, you're throwing out all the different options. Why can't we push it off? Why can't we borrow? What if we just don't do it at all? And it all comes back to, this is the best solution. But we do need a two-thirds vote, so I'm hoping that the Finance Committee supports this strongly and will help explain it again. I'm sure there'll be similar questions. And, I'll do my best to answer them as I can, along with any others who, I'll bring our project manager to the town meeting also.
I hate to beat a dead horse, but I have one more question.
Sure.
I was at the town meeting a couple of years ago when we voted on the project. And I remember there being furniture, and I know we took it out so that we could get a bid. But so if we voted on the project at this amount with the furniture in the plan, and then it got stripped out, I'm just confused on how that can happen to the plan that we voted on as a town.
So that's a great question, okay?
I'm
So-
sorry to ask.
No, at that town meeting, we have proposals of buildings of
Yeah.
certain sizes in the proposal on our best cost estimates without having fully completed plans was 38.5 million, right? That gets approved. So what does that do? It says architects, finish these plans, do all the details, figure out what we're gonna pay for and everything. And then we started tweaking things to try to make it conform to the budget, and we set aside some contingency. Now, if we were able to save money here or there, like we had a big debate about increasing the DPW garage by 3,000 more square feet, because what was originally proposed was actually less square feet. We went out and measured. Gordon Slaney and myself went out and measured every single storage piece on the old DPW, and the proposal was smaller, so we bumped it out 3,000. Did it cost us some money? Yes, but I think it's $220 a square foot for a pre-engineered building. It made all the sense in the world, because we're protecting literally millions of dollars of equipment. So that 3.5, we then tried to develop these plans and then set up a budget. And we have cost estimators before we go out to bid. Cost estimate is then look at the plans and say, if you were bidding, what do you think it would cost? And they came back and they'd say, let me simplify it. Let's use this, out of the 38.5, we had 30 million for construction, let's just say that. The cost estimate comes back and says, we calculated it'd be about 32 million. So we'd be like, all right, well, we can't go out to bid with that, so we go and start making more tweaks and stuff like that, right? And try to get it. And we had in our budget some sort of contingency money and furnishings money. Eventually, we come to what our cost estimate has said, you're on target, so you go out to bid. We have, in this case, $31 million or so to go out to bid for construction. We had one contractor that was under that budget. All the rest of them that came in were higher. And we're like, these guys have a great reputation. They're under the allocated budget, but we're gonna have to take money out of furnishings now, and so we can hold on to our contingency. And our goal is, if we can be tight with our money and really push back on every cost and have contingency money left at the end, we can use that to buy the furnishings. And if we don't have the furnishings, yes, what are we gonna do? We're already talking about situations to do that, and I can't disclose that publicly right now. But it's similar issue happened here at the town hall. So at the time town meeting approves it, you're using the best estimate with what frankly are preliminary plans. And then we go through 2 rounds of cost estimates before we go to bid, and then once the bids come in, we readjust to say, we can only accept this contract if you guys agree to move the budget line items a little bit, take out some furnishings. There was a few other things we took out. We were able to lower the bond cost. We lowered some insurance costs because we were able to fine tune it, not that we said we don't need it. And we were able to move forward and sign a contract. And everything was going swimmingly. We're paying all of our bills, and the buildings are on budget until when we started digging, we're like, so we had no money budgeted for this stuff, and it's bigger than we thought, much bigger than we thought. So yes, I'm here with open hands to say, we need a solution, and this is the most fiscally responsible way to do it.
I feel bad it's his birthday.
Yeah.
I just,
Greg, it's my job.
I know, but like, I feel bad.
I appreciate the questions, like Sean says.
Okay.
Anyone else? Right. All right.
Want him to go out and have fun.
So the motion before us is to recommend approval of Article 15, the borrowing of up to $1.6 million to finish the fire DPW project. We have had our discussions. All those in favor of the motion, please raise your hand or say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Abstaining?
I still don't know how much we're in the red because we've said 3 different things. Like, I will vote for this. I'm literally just trying to understand what the numbers are of what did we budget for soil, what was the cost of soil, what was the original contingency, and a justification for that. Like, that's it. So I will vote yay.
My takeaway from this is if we, and I don't know if that's you or you, if we can have some of that breakdown to present to people
And I
at
can
town
give you-
meeting.
Because using language
I
like,
think
oh,
that
we
would be
need that
really,
1.6
really
to make us whole, the project is not over budget, like, these are all things that don't line up. And like, I know what you're
100%,
saying.
100%.
But if other people who don't go through an hour and 15 minutes of this discussion are gonna have no freaking clue. So like, I do think we need to lay it out in a like very simple way.
He's
It's-
an
this is-
hourly lawyer.
Yeah, this is just me trying to help you, like, I'm all
I
for it.
agree
but-
with 100%, and I
Yeah.
would give you,
So I vote yes, but
Yes.
Taylor.
it's complicated.
But I agree. It's a good point. Those are things that we should have at town.
Because we need a 2/3 vote, so people
Yeah.
won't vote for things they don't understand, so I need.
That's what I mean,
This,
yeah.
so I'm taking
So
feedback
like,
from
if
you.
you want to take a picture of this is it. This is what my master's in analytics has given me. It is not much.
I will, and
So there you go.
I will, I'll get in touch with our project managers to get some more of that, and if I can put it in a concise
We'll get you
order,
those,
Yep.
I'll certainly feed you so that you guys can answer questions. And Emily, I'll be happy to connect you with Taylor. Taylor's a project manager, and I know you weren't here last week, but I think he said he's had 18 projects before this, and he's never gone over budget. And one of the reasons why we hired Pomeroy Associates for their track record. So he's pulling his hair out just as much as I am.
Because we've ruined his track record.
Huh? Well, Yeah.
And he's the project manager for the town of Abington. And sometimes I don't know, like,
That's
I
true.
learned that as I went on with the project, so that the project manager is on behalf, acting on behalf of the town of Abington. It's
Not for the
like
contractor.
He's doing the contractors. He's the guy he's basically our goalie. And I've learned that through the process from me upsetting developers along the way by telling them that I think it should be cheaper and this and this and this. They get upset with me, so now I go through Dad, which I call Taylor, and he's like a younger brother, but I said, you might be better off speaking
There
with
is
him.
at least
He's
one
really good.
person from Pomeroy Associates on the site every single day that construction's occurring. There's always someone representing the town's interests. That's mandated by law. It wasn't before, like when we built the town hall library, it wasn't mandated. And people realize that you need professional representation for a town, because most of us here are all volunteers. And Pomeroy's been great, but I'll try to get that info for you.
One of the Pomeroy people.
will get that.
Dave Ambrose, he's absolutely.
I trust y'all are handling it. I want the messaging to
Yes.
be
Yes.
crystal clear so that everyone knows exactly what they're voting on and what they're not voting on.
Right,
and
right.
things like that.
And I
So,
think that's
because I would
excellent.
love to not have abandoned buildings that are not serving this town. That would just infuriate
And the
me.
DPW would be
Essentially,
homeless.
essentially
That's what
a
bothers me.
Yeah.
I
$38
would love
million
to see you at school doing something again. I'm
abandoned,
still a little
unfinished
sad it
building
goes,
Yeah.
would not be a good use of our money.
Says the neighbor, right?
Yeah, that,
I'm sorry, Matt, I didn't hear you.
No, I said a $38 million unfinished abandoned building would not be a good use of taxpayer money.
yes.
No, it would not. Like I said, and there'll be increased costs if
Greg's winding up.
the closing,
We also did pay in the beginning for something, didn't we? I just thought of this.
there was feasibility studies.
Yeah,
at the
which was like
beginning.
1.3 million.
Oh, the 1.2 million was for the fuel tank.
Yeah.
Yeah, for the fuel
No,
island.
no, this is before that. Remember, we had a vote on something, and I stood up and said, make sure if we're voting yes on this, we should be voting yes on a $40 million project.
That must have been the feasibility that
Yes,
was.
I think it was.
I know there were, I know there
6
were,
years ago.
there were
5
studies
years
and
ago.
things, but that money was, if I remember correctly, and Andrew might or might not know this, but I believe that money was rolled into the 38.6. It's not separate from it.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
I greatly appreciate
Yeah,
it.
thank you.
Thank you. Happy birthday, chief.
Thank you. And,
No, we all vote yes. Yeah.
you got more, right?
Yeah, I have to stay, not at the table, though.
All right.
Please go have
You want
have
Tom?
fun.
Yeah.
Happy
Yes, but
birthday.
with the assignment of
Of
homework.
course.
Yes.
Yes.
Happy birthday.
Thank you.
Sorry to take you from your birthday, but
Thanks for the time.
There you go. If you want it, you can have it.
Happy birthday.
Absolutely, thank you. I'll get you guys.
There's cake.
No, I'm gonna get my
Thank you. Good luck.
Being
I want to live healthy now that I'm an old.
Nice to meet
put my
you.
moderator hat back on for the rest of your discussion.
All right. I think to give us a nice palate cleanser, let's.
I'm sorry, Grim.
let's-
I want, yeah, sorry.
It's good
Give us
to
a-
know, because
yeah,
if you
no, it's
aren't
good.
clear, then it means that there's going to be people at town meeting that aren't clear.
Absolutely.
So ask the questions until you're clear.
Don't
Even if
apo-
you're,
don't
even if you're
apologize.
clear, there's gonna be definitely people
You're
that
right.
Yeah.
aren't clear at
Yes.
that meeting.
Yeah.
Because this is somewhat, this is somewhat
is very-
complicated.
It's a
Very
lot of
good.
information.
This really isn't like the easiest.
Yeah.
A lot of information.
All right. Palate cleanser. I would like a motion to reopen
So
the
okay.
capital plan.
I make a motion to reopen the capital plan.
Second.
Motion from Abby. Hang on, let me just make sure that I'm documenting this properly.
A little less money up there.
Thanks, chief. Thanks, appreciate it.
There's a motion from Abby and a second from Barbara to reopen our vote on the capital plan. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining? It is unanimous. We are reopened. Is there a motion on Article 14?
What's the difference?
Motion to
Let's-
recommend.
Let's get the motion
Oh.
and then we'll
That was
discuss what
open
the
it so
changes
that we
are.
can,
Motion to recommend approval of Article 14, funding of the capital plan.
So motion from Barbara
I'll second.
and a second from Abby. So we have a motion. The capital plan has changed. We have had some work done by the DPW with the help of one of our committee members,
Nice.
who might be sitting to my right, to try to decrease the costs of what they are looking for. The athletic field paint machine, which when we voted on this last week was a $50,000 or up to $50,000 request is now an up to $32,000 request. Andrew, is that the only change we have on here?
Yes, that's the only change.
Thank you, Greg, for working with John on that.
Yes, thank
Yeah.
you.
Thank you.
Is there any other discussion on this, on the capital plan? Decrease in $18,000 that we have to take out of stabilization? It's essentially the cost of our taser replacement.
Next time I need a athletic field paint machine, Greg, I'm coming to you.
I'm telling you, next time you need basically any large purchase, have Greg help you negotiate.
Yeah, hear that, everyone in the town of Abington? Greg, what's your phone number?
I'm sure it's somewhere.
There's 1-800-FRAUD.
Did you see that? Oh, yeah.
And for those watching, that was a T-shirt Greg was wearing on Saturday.
Goodness.
It's a humorous T-shirt that was quite funny, and I appreciated. So,
It's really funny, the t-shirt.
so.
The sweatshirt,
Any
sweatshirt.
further discussion on the capital plan? Without any, all those in favor of the motion to recommend the capital plan?
Aye.
All those opposed, abstaining, it is unanimous. So we had left the right to farm motion to today, wondering if we would get more information on that. I believe the town manager has some more information for us.
I did, so,
So should we, can I get, sorry to
Yeah.
not jump on that, but can I get a motion on Article 21, the right to farm?
Motion to
Recommend.
recommend right to farm.
Motion to recommend Article 21 from Greg, second from Barbara. Mr. Town Manager.
Mr. Chairman, changing our course, we'll talk about farming. I made some minor modifications in here. There were a couple of stumbling points. One was that we'd have to do an annual mailing every year to every household, which added a significant cost. So that was taken out, and how we got around that is notification shall be promptly posted in the Abington Town Hall, the library, the town of Abington's website within 30 days of the law become effective. In addition, notification language required by this section will appear each year in the town's annual report that goes online. So there's no cost about the notification. The other thing is there is no fee associated with this. And as also, property owners should be made aware that Abington is a right to a farm community. So we'll put something up on the website, and we do, if town meeting supports this, most towns that do this, we post signs coming in and out of town on the highway that says it's a right to farm community. And finally, if there are any activities, if there are any arguments, person have a complaint about a farm activity or practice, it's encouraged to seek amicable resolutions to the complaint by talking directly to the farmer. And those are the updates. No cost.
So if someone wants to put anything up farm-related, they can do it next to my house. Whether I have no say, the town has no say. So this would be just like letting them put up a used car lot next door to me.
It would be a zoning.
It would be a zone, yeah, you'd still, so it's a right to farm, you have the right to farm
Yeah,
in the community.
Zach says amazing.
You couldn't put, if you have a 5,000 square foot lot, you can't put a barn that's gonna hold, 20 dairy cows or something like that. It has to be within reason.
But so that's my question is, and none of this stuff here, does it say anything about like reason? Right? So there is no, you
Who
can't have,
determines
that's what
that?
I'm saying, like there is no
And when?
3 animals, like if I want 10 llamas and 2 pigs, I don't know, I'm.
So my one thing that I will say to that, I do share those concerns, but I share those concerns as a citizen of Abington, as a member of the finance committee. The financial implications of this article have essentially been taken out of the article. And it becomes like any other zoning
Wait, oh, sorry.
article.
So nobody has to pay in order to do this, in order for somebody to check on, make sure that their cows are not, whatever?
They took out the fees.
That's what.
Yeah,
took up-
the $300
Oh, my God,
fee,
definitely. Yeah, sorry.
I'm not
Can I
sure.
do my thing to pass over? Can I re-amend it?
You can,
Yeah, can I,
like,
Matthew, could I please re-amend it?
You would have to,
Amend it.
you would have to retract your
Retract.
motion.
I would love to
Barbara would have to retract the
I
second.
would love to retract my motion.
I'll retract my second.
Motion and second have been retracted. Is there a new motion?
Motion to pass over?
There's a motion to pass over. Is there a second?
Second.
It's great. Second,
Sorry, pass over, like,
the article.
we don't
To
vote.
essentially vote no on the article.
Oh, to vote no, not just like, we don't have an opinion.
Correct. So when our opinion is no, we say to pass over, which means
Got it.
to say we don't.
We
want
don't
this.
recommend this.
Strange choice of words.
It's,
Okay.
it's very, very municipal,
It's fine. Yep, okay.
municipal legal language.
Okay, then,
So
yep.
Wait.
the options we have for motions are to recommend, to pass over, or to defer to someone else.
Got it. Okay.
Right. So,
So Greg, what is your reasoning for voting to pass over this article
No, there's
where
no-
where it has no financial
Yeah,
implications?
because it has no financial implications, it's the finance board, we're supposed to recommend things that have to do something financially,
So
and if
we-
there's no more financial interest in it.
So we typically don't say, don't vote for this on things
So,
that don't have financial.
I will say that I definitely don't know the municipal language like you do, Matthew, and I was thinking of passing
You were
over as
thinking
in,
as in deferring to someone
thanks.
else.
Yeah,
well,
that's what I think.
Okay,
thanks,
in
yeah.
this case, we don't really have another board to defer to. We could defer to the select
We don't
board.
have a farm board?
We could defer to the select board because it was, I believe, was it
was
officially
on by
the
the
select
select
board?
board.
Yes,
Put this on, so we could defer to the select.
I
Could-
think
could we
by
def-
not having a board to defer to means that maybe we're not the correct town to have a right to farm law.
Well, no.
That is a
but
solid point.
So Abby, my point is typically if something is brought forth by the planning board, we will defer to the planning board if it's brought forth by the zoning board. And this is again, for articles that don't have financial implication, for they're just articles that have to do with the area of provenance of the other board.
Okay.
Right, but what
I-
you're saying is we don't even
We
have
defer to
the.
the other
yeah.
board.
Can I-
I think
In
we
this
should
case, it's
defer.
being
As
brought
Mr. Riley
by the
pointed out,
select.
I live by North School and I looked out my kitchen window the other day and I saw chickens walking down Route 58. Like that doesn't make
Okay.
logistical sense.
Emily.
I have a question, and this is maybe for the two of you or everyone who's been here longer. So, what was the select board vote? Sorry, I gave away my packet.
Oh, yeah.
Was it yes or
In
no?
favor.
In favor. Okay. So, Matt,
Say really
I
wasn't
want
unanimous.
the seasickness pack. I can't see anything. Okay. So I recognize there's no board to defer, and it might not.
There actually is board to defer. We can defer to the select board.
Sure. Okay.
Or the health board.
And I understand there's no explicit financial. I'm going there. Okay. So
There is no.
I
explicit
think that
financial concern.
I do think that if, and this is where my question is, if we, let's say, the hypothetical 9 of us had, if we had 9, felt strongly about this as citizens of Abington, not passing over, deferring to the select board who voted yes, and then this, in theory, let's say it passes, right? Would there not eventually be potential financial implicate about
So,
property value and,
to that point, typically every year there are a slew of zoning articles that we don't have this year, but there's typically a slew of zoning articles on the warrant. Sometimes they're things like fences, heights of signs, road acceptance.
Sure.
But like signs and heights of signs for businesses could have an indirect financial implication on the town.
Right.
But they are much more under the jurisdiction of the zoning board than they are of the financial,
Can I clarify?
the finance committee, sure.
Under, under the
Yep.
charter, 67.4, the finance committee, there was a discussion a few years ago, should we limit the finance committee to only make recommendations on articles that had monetary effects? And it was decided, no, you should make recommendations, and it says you should make recommendations on all articles. Now, there are some types that you defer to because statutorily, for example, the zoning, or road acceptances, the planning board has to have a public hearing. So you defer to them because they have the public hearing. So this committee, on an article like this, could either vote to approve, recommend approval, they could recommend to pass over. You could, if you feel like you don't have enough information, defer to the selectmen to make a motion and let them make the motion. Whatever you guys do, but you are supposed to look at every article, but there's certain ones, like I just listed, you have to usually defer to the board that held the hearing regarding it.
Sean just said we weren't working. You said we weren't working.
Yeah.
Maybe their
What the-
discussion.
It was a nice way of saying it.
Yep. We do have a member of the select board in the audience tonight. I don't know if our member of the select board would want to come forward and give us some information on the
Your
the
discussion?
discussions that they had around this. Sorry to put you on the spot.
I know. But thanks for coming to the meeting anyway.
You know,
We'd sit on this side of the table.
Starting with
Paul Bunker, 19 Peregrine Road, member of the select board.
Thanks, Paul. So what was you guys' discussion on this one?
Basically,
Cliff Notes version. Because I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure there was a pretty long discussion.
no, it all started, I think, with the Board of Health wanting to institute regulations on, there were two regulations. One was for stables, horses, and the other was for livestock. Chickens, goats, sheep, llamas, emus. And basically, we wanted to do something, have a bylaw. I think East Bridgewater, Easton, trying to think what other towns around here. Marshfield had
West
right to farm. I know East Bridgewater because I drive by the sign every day.
Oh, that might be the Bridgewater side.
I think it's just basically to, we want to let people that have animals be able to have animals and not have to deal with a neighbor who wants to dispute them having animals. Like, I have chickens and I'm blessed to have neighbors all around me who
Don't mind.
don't mind. I had a rooster 4 years ago. I asked each one of them, I said, if you want me to get rid of it, I'll get rid of it. They said, nope, we enjoy the sound.
But what about the neighbor who doesn't ask?
Huh?
But what about the neighbor who has 15 roosters and doesn't ask?
So, again, so their neighbor, if they want to complain, they can complain to the Board of Health, they can complain to the town manager, they can complain to me, any other select board member, and
So then who enforces it?
Right, yeah.
Because if.
I don't get
if-
it.
If what Michael Moresco had just read to us was, the first step is neighbor to neighbor,
Mm-hmm.
but there's already an issue with neighbor to neighbor, or it becomes an issue that's greater, then they're constantly contacting the Board of Health.
so I
And then doesn't
think,
that become demanding?
the town of Easton, is when I was looking it up, they have an agricultural commission. I don't know if the select board appoints them, but basically they would act as, you have a complaint about my rooster, and we can't resolve it, you'd file a complaint to that agricultural commission
Okay.
and go there.
So
What's-
isn't that
what's
something
typically
we
an
should
outcome?
have in place first before, like, wouldn't we want to have that board or that entity in place first so that on that first day or week, when an issue comes up, when we've become a right to farm community, an issue comes up, they could go to that board.
Right.
Or
Yeah.
to that committee or to that.
It's a trust us
Entity.
borough. It'll be, we'll
Yeah.
have something, we promise, but
For the record, I'm not against people with chickens in their backyard.
yeah,
It's not just, it's not just chickens either.
Yeah,
It's-
and like farms.
Right, it could be
I'm
anything,
against people
though.
Yeah.
letting them walk loosely down Route 58 and like not, like if they're kept nice and clean in the backyards and all the animals are healthy, then you do you, bro. Like, I don't care. But when
Mine free range all the time. They stay in my yard. and
in
neighbor's
your yard,
Yeah.
like it's when it starts becoming a whole neighborhood promotion. I'm like, I feel like this kind of takes away the rights of the rest of the community a little bit too. And I feel like, to Barbara's point, we barely have a board of health. We're like, it's just we just have one guy in the health department, I think, at this point. We don't have.
And again,
the-
he's resigning.
And he's resigning. We don't have.
He will be replaced.
He will be replaced.
We don't
We'll
have.
be
It's not
hiring
like
an
we're,
LP.
it's not like we're not going to
Hope so.
fill
But I
that-
do
fill
think that we
position.
should have
So-
the,
Uh,
like the
For-
avenues in place
Yeah.
for.
yeah, feel safe
support.
that way.
Right, like, just like, okay, so we're gonna
If you
go
and I
this
can't-
route, but let's first get this in place and this in place and know that there's a procedure. There's some type of procedure, so that I think the townspeople could feel more comfortable to support that if they knew what their rights and procedures and guidelines and all of that would be, or that there was something like that in place, that it wasn't just gonna be like willy-nilly.
So I do 100% agree with that. Question, so this makes it so that if I don't have animals and I want to acquire or house or whatever, want to suddenly have animals on my
If you
property.
want to buy animals,
If I want to buy animals and put them on my property,
not immediately.
I don't
can
have
do that
to,
right
do-
now.
I don't have to do anything, I don't have to do anything, tell anyone, register. Like, it's a zoning thing, but like, do I have to,
So
Does not
correct
sound
me
like-
if I'm wrong, and this is to either town manager, select board, or attorney Sean Riley. Where our charter bylaws are right now, you can do that without this. correct?
Well, I mean, there's zoning, you got, your chicken coop or your barn has to be set, have proper setbacks, but.
Right.
sure, so
Within-
what are we?
Within the zoning laws, so that's, I think
So say-
what this, I think, and you can correct me if I'm wrong on this, I think what this does is essentially codifies it so that it's protected more than it currently is now, and the zoning can't be like, you can't have chicken coops.
And
Or
so you
say-
can't sue your neighbors, is what it is, right?
Or say I have 5 neighbors, 4 of them have no problems with my chickens. Anybody can come look at it, there's no issues, everything's clean, chickens are healthy. And I have one neighbor, doesn't like animals, now they're gonna make a complaint to Board of Health, Town Manager, Select Board, whoever, just because they don't like chickens. I'm not doing anything wrong, but that person doesn't like chickens.
Yeah,
Now, right to farm says, well, in the language, it basically says I can have them as long as I'm maintaining everything. And it.
and what does
you're
that
not getting
fifth
nuisance
person do?
complaints.
So what does that fifth person do? That,
Move
No, they,
Deal with it.
Stop complaining.
and,
Yeah.
or move.
or if you have an agricultural commission, they'd go that route and
Yeah.
then,
and see if there was findings for
Yeah,
it,
But
right? If
without
there
the
was,
agricultural commission, they would go either to the Board of Health, Select Board.
The state of Massachusetts is a right to farm state, right? I read that. Well, if the internet says it's true, it's gotta be true.
No, it has to be adopted locally so you have to have a bylaw like this. You
a
adopt
local
by
option,
right.
it's a local,
Yeah, the biggest issue I have is that if we do this, it's going to be another department, and we currently can't pay for all the departments we have.
No.
So you wouldn't have,
There's
you
no-
wouldn't have to
there's
worry
no-
about it,
there's
wouldn't be
no-
another
there's-
be
department?
a volunteer board if you did
Yeah,
like,
the agricultural commission would be volunteer if you wanted.
So there
to
wouldn't
do
be, we wouldn't have to hire one other person to deal with this. We wouldn't have to inspect anything. So who would inspect it
Nobody
to make sure
inspects
that the
anything.
No one-
chickens are
no one
completely
inspects it.
beautiful?
Does the Board of Health currently does?
Well, they would have health, there would be some.
Board of Health
Yeah.
or building inspector
Yeah.
where they're looking at setbacks.
Can we make some money around this? Like, I don't mean
We
it.
took the.
They took the money out.
No, I know, but like, I
out.
think that's how you can actually make things make sense to people. Is that you would put a dollar amount to say anybody can do it, and it's $100 to do it per year, and because of that, we go out and we look and inspect things and do, but if, I don't.
Then it's not really a right anymore,
Oh, it
right?
is a
Then
right, it's just-
It's a
But
right that
I
you're
pay
charging me for.
I pay a registration fee for my dogs.
I know.
So why do we not have to pay a registration fee for an emu?
That's what I don't get. You register, you.
The dog you pay the fee for because of rabies.
Yeah,
An emu could have rabies.
Well,
I don't know.
Or any other disease, right?
prove
I've
it.
gotten bitten by a couple.
We know birds can have.
Bird flu, right? Birds can have bird flu.
Avian flu.
They
yeah,
have
avian
opposed-
flu.
What
So
was,
I think we are
Because
delving deep into the weeds of this issue.
Well, I just don't really understand how it's actually going to.
It sounded like that. I did.
I
gotcha.
I think might be a little short-sighted on execution.
I just think that we should, yeah, I'm in favor of having some type of committee to help with,
To
Direction
to have
for-
oversight and recourse, a place of recourse.
right.
or so that like
Before-
someone like
before
you
something like this.
doesn't keep getting, you know, if there's somewhere that a person could go to,
Yeah,
an
it's gonna
agricultural
work the
committee.
same way, so-
Right, so,
If Floyd's complaining about my chickens, I'm gonna say the same thing. I'm saying my other
Yeah.
4 neighbors are fine with it.
right, so somebody needs to be the voice of reason, or the oversight, or the, like,
can I give a hypothetical?
We can add language in it that requires if this passes, the select board would have to approve an agricultural commission.
Can I do a hypothetical really quick, just because it's somewhat relevant? We had an opioid commission, board, who weren't responding effectively. So is the board that we're trying to formulate, are they going to be responsive? Is it gonna be once a month? Every other week? I mean, I know that's strategical and you have to plan that, but, you know, I assume that other board also had scheduling that they didn't meet.
Technically, that's a question we would have to ask about every board
Yeah.
in town. The possibility
But I
of a
see
board
where
to
you're
not
getting
do
at,
their
though.
duty and their due diligence.
But then it-
exists because
Yeah.
boards are made up of people.
Right,
And
but,
people-
or if we can't get enough people to be on that board, then doesn't that just fall right back on select board, which is what we are doing now with the opioid settlements? My point is, I just want to make sure that what we're doing is the step to do it is correct, which I agree. But I don't want it to be like, oh, we couldn't get enough to do a forum or a quorum, so now it falls on select board. And they meet, I don't know, twice a month when in the slow months.
What is the, so if a committee is formed and maybe only one person or two people are showing up to a 5-person committee, who then, what is,
Goes back to the appointing authority to police. But one of the things with the new incoming select board, I'm gonna suggest that, what I did in my previous employ is there's a liaison to every one of the committees, and that the select board, and that was only a board of 3, there's 5 in Abington, but they divide up all the committees. They don't have to go to the meetings, but they're the liaison. The chairs of the committee have to report annually to the select board when it comes time for reappointment, and if people aren't showing up, then you have to get other people to be appointed and do that, because it's not fair to the other committee members.
yeah, and I don't want the selectmen making all those decisions that committees should be, separate people should be
Right.
having a say in.
Greg's been Googling.
Yeah, so towns are not legally required to adopt a local right to farm bylaw, but doing so is a recommended proactive measure to protect agricultural operations from nuisance lawsuits and reduce conflicts between farmers, blah, blah, blah. They protect farmers using standard agricultural practices. What it sounds like here is that, if I can keep reading this, but it's definitely meant for people that have, like, they say, West Boylston Agricultural Commission, these are for like actual farms. Like they have like,
It
they have like
is-
a farm.
It is much more so
Right.
intended for actual farms.
Right,
than
and so I have no issues, by the way.
Backyard chickens.
I have no issues with anybody doing this
It does
stuff.
protect you.
I just think the second you do it, you do open up a, if there were a little bit, and look, I think everybody knows here, I'm not really big on the bumpers, but if there were a little bit more bumpers here where it said like, no, you can't have llamas, or
But
whatever,
can't.
I
I
don't
can
know.
go buy one right
No,
now.
I know, but that's what, my point is, if you're gonna put something together saying this, I think that there should be a little bit of like a framework to say, this is what you can and can't do if you really want to have a farm.
Is this in
I don't know
response
that
to the
that's
Board
what
of
the,
Health's draft?
the intention of the article is, or the bylaw is. I don't know that it's to put any, bumpers, right?
No,
Oh, it's
that's what I
not.
mean,
It's
that's,
the opposite.
It's
Yeah.
the-
that's what I'm saying,
Right.
Barbara, I would like some bumpers to be here, to be a little bit more, because you basically, I mean, reading this, you basically can do whatever
Whatever.
you wanna do.
And there's
Which you
nothing,
can do
Which-
right now,
which is the
but your
case
neighbors
without
can
it.
complain about.
Right.
Your neighbors can complain about it
This is,
now.
Right.
this
Now,
is
this,
more,
they can't,
so this is more for
Yeah.
mediation of
Someone-
complaint
correct.
than it is for what we allow and what we don't allow.
So,
Essentially, what we allow and what we don't allow
Spitting
does not
llama.
particularly change with this. It's more for
my
mediation of
property.
complaint.
Yeah.
there's nothing in here about keeping it clean and doing it, you know, there's
So I
nothing in
think-
here about
I think the
I,
language.
that I could
for-
see. Maybe there is, but
I mean,
trying to
keeping
read it
horses as a
quickly, I didn't
commercial
find it.
No,
enterprise.
it's
I think,
really
I think
just.
the language
I haven't seen it, I
for
feel like.
No,
we're
all right,
taking
good.
out more.
Thanks
a
for,
agricultural board or something to that effect.
Retites.
Would be useful to this.
What's a retite?
I can add that.
Is that like a
And-
word?
to me, taking out the fees was,
Ratties?
it's like the other thing.
Why did we?
Yeah,
Is it
you,
like a-
you take out the
So
fees,
that-
then who's gonna do the inspection? We're gonna do it for free? Now we have a financial impact. By taking out the fees, we'd have a financial impact. You can take out the fees in the document, but it
We
doesn't
said
take
we
out the
gotta put a
need to do.
sign.
It's like an emu.
Yeah,
Yeah, it costs money.
doesn't take out the need to do the inspection.
So the inspections are not because of the right to farm. The inspections are already either necessary or not necessary.
The,
We went over this a couple of years ago with the
Yeah.
fee for farms,
Yeah.
which is when we learned there are 6 farms, and essentially 6 properties in the town that would qualify under the fee structure. So you would be taking in a very minuscule amount of money to pay someone who we already pay a salary to.
So,
this right to farm, this right to farm bylaw, from what I have been able to research about it, is basically, the crux of it seems to be that you don't have recourse. Your fifth neighbor that doesn't like your chickens or llamas or cows or horses or whatever.
A retite?
That neighbor has less recourse if you live in a right to farm community.
Retates?
Maybe recourse isn't the right word. Less ability to file multiple complaints.
Nuisance complaints.
Nuisance complaints,
Yes.
which you might consider a nuisance because,
But-
but he might think it's warranted.
However, again, it
To be
is,
devil's
it
advocate,
is
though, I
complaining about
think-
something that someone is doing on their own property.
Well, okay, but that's my, is it specifically their own property? Like, we've talked about like roaming animals. If I
Right.
have,
Or a
So
pile of.
I think if you
Like
have
smells
someone
travel over
whose,
air, like.
whose animals are doing something on your property, I don't think that's a nuisance.
No, that's
complaint.
trespassing.
That's a very valid complaint.
Depending on who's hearing the complaints,
Asking the
no?
lawyer who is choosing
Yeah.
not to.
Depending on who's hearing the
But
complaint.
whether or not something
I
is
don't like-
done about it and what is done about it is a different story, but that would be a very legitimate complaint. Complaining that you don't like that your neighbor has chickens over and over again is a nuisance.
But what, I mean, if you have a pile of manure and it's July.
And the flies.
My
I didn't look at the Board of Health regulations, but most communities, there are regulations regarding manure.
Do we have, like, who enforces those regulations? Who's doing that currently?
I think it's the Board of Health.
If it's, you'd have to see if it's in Board of Health and there's something written into that. We'll have to see what they say about, manure. I know manure is a big thing.
I was just using that as
But that's-
an
But-
edge of your property.
yeah.
And
And the
my
smell and the
dog's
flies
or
and the-
whatever it
yeah.
is, and you're having a picnic with your, or you're trying to sell your house.
Right.
And,
smells.
your,
It smells.
Yeah.
People can have the right to farm, but like people also can have the right to complain. Like I feel like people have.
well, I think in areas where there's more land, like there's certain areas where you're required to have 2 acres before you can build a house. So I'm not saying but so in areas in towns like, maybe a Middleborough or
Beckett.
further out in the Bridgewaters, or
Like,
the,
we're
Active.
kind of congested here.
Somewhere in the Berkshires, like Beckett.
or
Otis.
Goshen, or, right, any of those places that, have more land. I think it may be easier to be a right to farm community because you have more space to be a right to farm community. In a town like Abington,
still could have
where,
manure
what gives
right
a
on your neighbor's
large
property.
piece of property the right to farm also gives a very small piece of property the right to farm without any agricultural committee in place or any bumpers to it. I think that
Emily.
Is this the first year that this is on?
Yes.
Why is it? Because
Well,
no, we're talking about 6 versus the entire town, and it's interesting that we're taking something to town meeting that will allow 6, like, is this a problem that, I don't know, are you one of the 6? Like, is this like
Like farms, you have a
farms
farm.
that-
No.
okay, like, is this a problem right now?
it
In
peaked
I think
when
it came to a head when there was
Discussion.
perhaps a difference of opinion between some of the select board and the Board of Health.
there was a draft being made by the Board of Health
Right, I remember.
that
Okay, now I
got
remember.
resistance, and in turn, the right to farm was proposed,
Okay,
and here we are.
yeah.
So
I just wonder.
if we already can do most of the farm
Exactly.
animals,
Why is this?
then why even bring it up?
Like
Yes.
I said, I think it's a question of, more of a question of arbitration than allowance.
So where were you at with that motion, Greg? What did it say?
Motion
It was
to
Greg.
pass over.
I was giving a second.
Chris
It's already
seconded.
been seconded.
Chris seconded.
To pass over.
Our discussion has been on the motion to pass
Okay,
over
that's what I
Article
was checking.
21,
That was,
which is vote no on Article 21.
okay.
I accidentally used the right words.
Good job, Greg.
You were spot on.
So, do we have any further discussion on Article 21?
No.
I would say it's either a passover or we defer to the Board of Health, because they're the ones who are going to be dealing with this, along with this committee that's not formed yet.
Not comfortable
So
with anything without.
I say,
I
Passover.
think based on.
I think we have a motion before us. I think
Yes.
we vote on the motion before us.
Yep.
To give our recommendation. So all those, are we good,
I'm good.
Greg?
Yeah.
All those in favor of the motion to pass over Article 21, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those saying no, I'm gonna say no.
5 to 1.
It is, the ayes have it. We will now move on to the least contentious item.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Paul.
Thank you.
Least contentious article that we have, the budget.
Which is scary.
Mr. Sal, before we get started on the budget,
Yes,
can I
Ms.
ask,
Gendro.
Can I ask you a question?
No.
If we're getting a new, this is just like a logistical question, I don't want it to go on for 2 hours. If we're getting a new budget to our new select board this weekend, how, like, do they not get a chance to look over this if this
Nope.
is due today?
No.
Okay.
Nope. Because the recommendations have to be made and posted 10 days prior to town meeting,
Which is now.
And then my
which is Friday officially.
And then my-
So it's before the election.
follow-up question. If the people who are on the current select board, do they have to abstain from the voting because they will no longer be on the select board at the town meeting?
No.
No.
They're still residents of Abington, right?
But no, not for the voting of the town meeting, voting on them as select board members.
No, because they are members of the select board at the time that the votes are taken.
Okay, thank you. I've been thinking, like, I think when I'm not here too, so that I can have a lot of questions.
All right, so let's move on to Article 13, the budget.
13? Okay.
Quick, I'm gonna ask the moderator to come forward in his role as moderator this time.
Hi, I'm Sean Riley, as your moderator,
Sorry.
my 18th year.
No, you're good.
18.
Yep.
So are we going to have two separate motions?
Yes, this is what I believe is going to happen, and I say that because we're having a meeting on this coming Monday with town council and the financial officers of the town, the town clerk, as we do before every town meeting, to go over every article, make sure the procedures are set right, the voting procedures right, who's going to make the motion, which is typically finance committee. So what I am envisioning now, we have preliminary talks with the town manager, town council. And again, for the record, I am not town council. The proposed budget handout, which will be given to everyone at town meeting, which will also be posted on the town website, I'm sure as soon as you guys make your vote to recommend. Typically, if there was no override issues involved, the handout would show a column with last year's budget, a column with the town managers and Board of Selectmen recommended budget, and then the far right column would be the Finance Committee recommended budget. And for the last many years, the town manager budget and the FinCom budget have been the same.
Yeah.
But we always vote, the first motion is always to approve the Finance Committee's recommendation. Excuse me. On this budget handout, we have a Finance Committee recommendation for a level funded budget and then a separate column for a level service budget, which would require a ballot box override vote on May 16th. So it is my intention, unless town council directs me otherwise, is to have discussion on the budget, the level funded budget especially, and at some point to take a vote for the town to approve the level funded budget, which is a balanced budget, which, as you guys all know, it will require cuts in different departments, but it's a balanced level funded budget. By approving that column first, we now establish an operating budget that would take effect as of July 1st for the coming fiscal year. Fine. Then we have a second discussion about the proposed override line items. I think there's seven questions. Oh, I should have just read the other column. 7 questions. That being the proposed override for the fire department is question 1. The second one would be the police. The third one would be school. Fourth one is DPW. Fifth one is council on aging. The sixth one is for the public library. And the seventh one is what's sometimes described as the town hall, but that includes funding for the offices of the town manager, the town clerk, the assessors, the building commissioner, the treasurer, the health department, the information technology department, the veterans department, and the planning department. So there'll be discussion on those 7 proposed amounts. Town meeting, after discussion and debate, could decide to have a motion, or the finance committee might make a motion to approve all 7 and send it to the ballot box and let the people vote the way they want. In order for an override to pass, it has to be an affirmative vote at town meeting and then an affirmative vote at the ballot box. So if you pass it at town meeting, it's not in effect until or unless the ballot box always approves it. also approves it. So theoretically, if the finance committee made a motion to approve all 7 of the level service budgets, subject to the May 16th ballot, it goes to the ballot. And then at the ballot, if only 2 of them pass, or 1 of them pass, or none of them pass, then that means only the ones at the ballot that passed would take effect. And the other departments would live through the next year with the level funded budget. There's been questions that I've heard is, can I stand up at town meeting and say, for X override, can I make an amendment to lower the dollar amount? Sure, you can make that amendment, and then we take a vote on whether we want to change that number. The ballot, however, is already printed, because it has to be printed 35 days before the May 16th ballot, so it already is printed at the maximum number it could be.
And early voting is already taken.
People have already voted yes, no on some of those ballots, and people have already voted for
Does
the,
not need to be done like that, though.
there's different ways to do it. This is the way it's been done
This
this
is the way
year.
that it's been done, but it did not need to go to a ballot first before town meeting.
So it could have
It had-
waited for town meeting, seen the result of town meeting, and then the select board could have.
Right, and only the selectmen can call the ballot election, and they can't cancel it either, because the election's already started. But hypothetically, and I'm gonna look for town council to confirm this for me, just as a hypothetical, not naming any department, but if there's an override for a department and it's listed at town meeting and on the ballot at $1 million, and town meeting takes a vote to amend it to 800,000. And town meeting says, we'll vote for 800,000 subject to the ballot box. Well, when you get to the ballot box, that same department's gonna say 1 million.
Yeah.
If the $800,000 town meeting vote passes and the $1 million ballot box passes, it's my understanding that department has 800,000 authorized.
And how confusing
But
will that?
I'm more concerned
Very-
about the opposite.
Very confusing.
The opposite of what?
What if someone stands up and says, I want to authorize 1.5?
That would be out of the scope. I would say you can't do that because the warrant is intended to give people notice about what we're going to discuss. And especially in these type of articles, there are some people who say, oh, I don't care if it's $1 million. I'm gonna stay home because I know that'll pass. But if you told me it's 1.5, I'd go vote against it. So the theory is to protect the minority. You're given notice that this is the projected
The
maximum amount.
Okay, no,
So I
that's-
can accept a motion to drop it, but then town meeting has to vote. So someone might say, I want to make a motion to reduce the million to 800,000, and the amendment fails. So then I'd say, okay, now we're going to take a vote for the million. And whether we have to vote all separately or all together, I'll have to decide depending on how the debate's going and what the sense is of the community. But it comes down to the ballot box election, which, as you know, is a secret ballot election.
Yeah, my concern is the people who have already started the early voting, because when I was in college, I mail-in balloted
Yep.
somebody who dropped out after Super Tuesday for the presidential primary. I was very mad because I already early voted. I called town hall. I was told, you already voted, that was fair, so my vote technically didn't count. So now do these votes not
But
count?
no, because if you're
The number
willing, if you're
changes?
willing to authorize 1 million and the number comes in lower, hypothetically, you're willing to authorize that number.
So
Right?
I have an answer, but let me.
Yeah.
Well,
Right, but if you're going to if town meeting says 800,000, and then after town meeting, you go to the ballot box and it says 1 million.
Oh, no, I
I'm
agree.
not voting
Confusing
for
as
it,
heck, but I mean, the
right?
people who've already voted, if I'm fine with 1 million, presumably I'm fine with 800,000. I mean, I
Yeah,
don't know, it's not
and if you
great.
voted no for the million,
But
then
you
you've
would've
also
voted-
committed to say no for 800.
Well, that's not great.
But that's,
Yeah.
the-
What if you-
that's your decision if you want to vote.
If you were saying, like,
But what if you would have,
town meeting dropped it from $1 million to
500, no, it could be any number,
100,000,
yeah.
you could be like, well, I wouldn't have done $1 million.
Exactly.
And that's just your
No, I know.
decision if you want to vote
If
early.
you early vote, you're taking the risk that things
Yeah,
get
so.
Theoretically, yes, correct.
I mean, we need a
messy,
lot,
like,
we need.
Well, it's not even
we
if you
need
early vote.
A lot of time to
Because
vote.
the ballots are already made.
If you don't
It
pay
doesn't matter whether you early vote, that
Well-
number is already on the ballot.
But you wouldn't
So
have the
even if you
information.
don't early vote, you're gonna get the same numbers on the ballot that are
Right,
there
but
for the
you-
early
if you
voters as for
either-
the.
If you
Are you
either
gonna white
were
out
at
them,
town
or you
meeting
just
or
gonna-
heard what happened at town meeting.
You're gonna
you
get
would
that
know.
ballot
Even
without
if
the
the
big
number
extra.
Voting
Yes.
at the ballot, at the ballot.
You would have to
box.
know and carry
would
that
have to-
information.
You would have to know.
It is definitely confusing.
Yeah.
We're gonna do our best to explain all of those scenarios, and that's why I think it's important first to take a vote to hopefully approve
Makes sense.
the level funded budget, so we establish a town budget so we can continue moving forward. Then we'll have these scenarios discussed for the level service budget, which requires one or more overrides.
I would just final point on it. You know how you have to like go check in?
Yeah.
Like, could they have like a song, or could they give the information of
They
like?
can't talk about the election.
Never mind.
No, I'm sorry, ask your question, I wanna make sure.
So like whoever's checking you in, you
Yeah.
know, signs your, you know, give them their ID. Can they have like a piece of paper, or can they say, like, at town? Can they give you that information
Are you talking about when you're at the ballot box election, or at the
Yes.
town meeting?
at the ballot box?
So if town meeting changes.
If
could
something
we-
changed.
Could we have a handout that is handed with the ballot?
At the voters.
It says, "Attention, number 4. The number is blah blah blah."
But
Like,
that's not, so if I may, because I think we're confusing the issue for people that are watching. It's prescribed by state law, so once the election ballot is there, that's the number you're voting on. It doesn't matter what town meeting voted on at that point, because you're voting on the amounts that are at the ballot. What happens is, the moderator was 100% correct. In order for the override to pass, the exact number at town meeting has to match a number at the ballot box.
That's not what he
When
said.
that
No, I
doesn't,
didn't say that.
yeah, well, but in theory, if we're at the pass, it has to,
Well, that's why I guess we need town council, because my,
because that's what he told me.
someone
All
had
right,
to
well,
say.
then-
Because you asked me, and I told,
Then it's a second election.
and then, so what happens is,
yeah,
if there's disagreement between the vote at town meeting on the override and what was voted at the ballot box, the ones that don't match, you have an option to have another town meeting to see if town meeting will vote to adopt what the voters voted at.
okay. So that's the new updated
But the
information from town
voters
council.
voted on the numbers that were already.
The voters, you can't change the ballot, so the voters are voting on what that number is to make those budgets whole. Town meeting can always change a number.
Right, but then we're going back to town meeting
Then
with
you'd
the
have to go
number,
back.
with the
Go back.
original numbers.
With the numbers that are on the ballot.
Only the
already
numbers that didn't change, so for instance, I mean, let's do, say,
Just please, no one
say the
change
police,
the number.
say the police was, so the police are asking for 875,486. So let's say someone at town meeting says, we're only gonna give them 500,000. So town meeting says, okay, they take a vote, moderator calls the vote, 500,000. When they go on the 16th though, it's gonna say 875,486. So people that are for the police wanna support that, they would support that number. Now you have two numbers that don't match. So the option is, is to ask for another town meeting, and town meeting would have the option, do they want to do the higher number? If not, then the police live with the 500,000,
Oh, okay, yeah,
Okay.
that is what you said.
because that's what they did on the floor, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
That-
so
that-
go back to what I said,
That's
so
what he said.
if the
You're
million,
agreeing.
I'm just gonna use round numbers, if the X department has $1 million override listed, and town meeting votes for a lower number, and then you go to the ballot box and print it as the higher number. So now you've got a town meeting vote at 800 and you've got a ballot box at 1 million. Correct me if I'm wrong. If you do nothing else, that department has 800,000 authorized to be added to their budget.
Correct.
The selectmen could make a decision, hey, since the general public voted for the million in the ballot box, we could, if we think it's prudent, call us another special town meeting and say, if you'd like, we can take a second vote now and go from 800 to 1 million at this new town meeting to match, to max it out. Whether the selectmen decide to do that or not is not our
Why is
decision.
there a vote in the first place?
Which vote?
All of it.
Because,
Sorry. thank you.
because as,
Ballot box vote.
because as stated at the start of Sean talking. For an override to be put into effect, we need a positive vote at town meeting and a positive vote at the ballot.
And they're both majority votes.
So what,
have to-
and can I just say
have to
something
have-
crazy? If they say no at town meeting and yes to the ballot box, what happens?
The selectmen have a decision to make now. They can say, we don't have two positive votes, so we can't fund the departments with the extra money. They could say, geez, there was 150 people at town hall that said, town meeting that said no, but there was 4,000 people who voted yes. We should have another town meeting, because there's obviously, there's,
That decision, I know they're elected, that decision is up to 5 people.
it's up to 5 people to put the overrides on the ballot to begin with. So yes, it would be, so I think there'd be a lot of lobbying going on. If May 16th, the higher vote was approved.
Yeah.
I think it's these people lobbying,
Okay.
we should at least have a Democratic town committee
Yeah.
to, have a second view. And maybe town meeting says, nope, we're not doing it again. I think the reason why you have for an override, a town meeting vote and then a ballot election vote is some people can't get to town meeting. And the ballot vote is usually a higher population that gets out there because they can vote between 8 AM and 6 PM on May.
For 3 weeks.
What's that?
For 3
And,
weeks.
and weeks before.
Yeah, and before, right. So, that you can learn more about it, you can have a handout, you can hand out stuff out front if you wanted to do that. Not inside the ballot area, the voting area, but outside.
Certain distance away from.
You can hand out information, any group could do that. So if you're pro override or anti override.
Look, if
Sorry,
this
Matt.
was my first town meeting and I went in to vote, and I went in and I said, no override, hypothetical, no override, I'm not voting for that. And then they said, okay, now in 2 weeks, we're gonna vote for an override.
Yep.
Then why did I even go to town meeting?
And that's my job to explain it to people, because my
It's
theory
still, it doesn't
is,
matter how you explain it. It's
know
still
how
gonna be,
important it is.
So
Yeah.
Floyd,
And I think
Floyd,
everyone in the town should be at town meeting every year, but it feels like what I just voted on meant nothing.
but again, to that, for it to go into effect, it has to have a yes at town meeting and a yes at the ballot.
I understand.
So if you go,
But
if
if it's my
it's your
first town
first time at town meeting, and you go and you vote no, and town meeting votes no, unless we have a emergency special town meeting after the ballot says yes, it's a no.
I've
what
never,
is the point of town meeting?
I don't
at that
remember,
point?
Yes.
we haven't had a lot of override votes in the town, really, a lot.
I got 8
There's been votes for
looks.
debt exclusions, to borrow money to pay for the school. That's different than an override,
Yeah.
technically. I don't recall a time when town meeting changed the dollar amount. But it could, I'm just saying it could happen. It's a
We're
democracy.
spending a lot of time on something that will hopefully.
Yeah, it's a real hypothetical. Based on historical, and I'm not trying to persuade anyone to go the one way or another, historically, the town meeting will vote to authorize those numbers to go to ballot. And then the ballot is the deciding factor, period. That's historically. But I want to educate people what your options are. You can say
Yeah.
no at town meeting and
Yeah.
thwart a successful vote. Don't know.
Emily?
Okay, has the level funded budget ever not passed? And if that happens, what do we do?
In my time on the committee, it has always passed.
Okay,
However, what we would have to do at that time would be, I believe, we would have to we would have to go back to work and have a special town meeting.
We have to take,
for the start of the fiscal year.
we have to take a vote to establish a budget before June 30th.
Okay.
To your point, what might happen is,
I just wanna make sure there's game plan.
yes,
That's it.
there's a presentation of a level-funded $76 million budget.
With cuts.
Yes, that involves cuts pretty much across the board.
Yes.
Yes, someone could come up and say, I'd make a motion to further reduce this line item, this department by $100,000.
I mean, yeah, I don't think that's like out of the question.
No, and that,
I mean-
that always, all these things come up, so then I say, okay, Mr. XYZ's made a motion to adjust that line item to reduce it by 100,000. All those in favor of that amendment, say aye or oppose. If it passes, I say, okay, now we're gonna take a vote on the level funded budget,
Yeah.
but with that line item amended. If it approves, that's your budget. And that department is gonna have to figure out how to survive with that smaller budget amount.
Okay,
I was gonna say, are we putting this abridged budget up? Or because it's so, like, restricted, are we gonna put up the item by item budget up for everyone
So
to see?
what we typically have is essentially department by department.
Okay.
Yes.
And it's usually
That's-
about,
I need that back.
You can.
Usually
I'll
about-
take so many copies.
it's usually about 4 or 5 pages.
Yes, and what I usually do is go page by page. Does anyone have any questions on the budgets on page 1?
I just
All right, if
didn't
not,
know
turn the
this
page.
year If everyone, like, are we gonna actually see like a line by line budget?
So we're not gonna see the 113 or whatever it is page budget where we see every single, like where you see what they're paying for
Stamps.
stamps.
Freak people
or
out, yeah.
Electricity, each thing. But you will see the departments in a.
Salaries and expenses for each department. But yes, if you really want to know the minutia, it's available in the accountant's office where, when it says expenses,
and
it'll
on the
list out,
accountant's website.
Yeah, it's on the website.
yeah.
Yeah.
Any,
So for those watching at home, anyone that really wants to dig in line by line,
And see what light
the
bulbs.
way that we have been doing as a committee
Electricity,
for the last.
gas.
Which
Paper clips.
is much better on a computer than a phone. Highly recommend. If you think everything is
Very valid
broken
point.
because you're on your phone, grab a
And
computer.
Andrew does a great job of also updating it. Like tonight, you
Yes.
updated the capital budget,
Yep.
the capital plan. So a week ago, you would have seen online something else, and now
Yep.
soon there'll be another update.
And I will say, Andrew does a great job. This is not stuff that we have always had on
No.
the accountant's website. This is an improvement over the years that Andrew has come in and been our accountant and provided us much more information than we had in prior.
I've had a lot of compliments on your
Really
transparency.
Thank you.
So,
And just for those of you who may not know, the last 2 years, there's only been 1 or 2 people who vote no on the budget, out of the all 150.
People joke with me sometimes
And-
that in a regular year with a no override,
One of them is here.
we'll spend 4 or 5 minutes and approve a $70 million budget,
Yeah.
but then we're gonna spend 40, I won't let it go 40. We're gonna spend 20 to 30 minutes talking about right to farm.
Well, you know.
I understand it, but you know what's helpful
it
is
shouldn't be.
your meetings are on cable and a lot of people watch them. So I've talked to a lot of people who go to town meeting, like they already come in with a boatload of knowledge, which is very helpful. That doesn't mean people can't stand up and ask a dumb question, what they think is dumb, because I think people need to hear the answers to everything. And when I start the meeting, I try to assume that everybody sitting in the audience, this is their first town meeting, and try to explain things as best we can. And like, if you're confused about procedure, stop and ask me, and we will certainly explain it, because I don't feel comfortable calling for a vote unless I think people understand what they're voting for.
Yep.
What a yes means, what a no means. And I can't vote by charter unless there's a tie, and thank God, there's never been a tie. So that's the proposal, is that we'll take a vote for the column that says level funded, and then maybe debate about that, or maybe propose adjustments that may or may not fail. And then we'll take a separate discussion. We can have a general budget discussion to begin, but then I have to focus it in on like, all right, now we're just gonna look at level funded. Let's take a vote.
And level service is higher.
Level service is higher and requires an override.
But goes second.
That will go second, because we need to establish our baseline budget. So we can walk out of there, because we don't know what the ballot's gonna do. If every override fails, we don't have to go back to another town meeting, because we've already set a baseline budget, which is the level funded budget.
So where we're at tonight, go ahead.
I was just gonna ask, will it be explained that even though you're voting level funded just to get the budget approved, there is still that second option right behind it, that if you wanna vote level services, that's right there? Because
Yeah.
to me, I would say, yeah, I want the budget level, I want it funded, I want it to be balanced, but I wanna vote for.
Yes. No, you're 100% right.
Voting twice?
We're gonna try to talk big picture. This is the procedure, this is
Yeah.
what we're going to do, this is what it's gonna mean, this is what has to happen. I'm gonna open up general questions, and then at some point I'm gonna say, okay, to move this forward, let's talk about whether we wanna approve and set the level funded budget. And then, with that behind us, we'll say, let's concentrate now on what you wanna do with the proposed override numbers.
Okay.
And if people, you know, you guys are gonna take a vote tonight whether you want to support all 7 or 5 out of 7 or whatever you're gonna do. That's gonna be the initial motion. Let's say hypothetically, you guys said, we support the first 5.
Wait, I thought it was all or nothing.
No, well, you guys make a recommendation, right? So, I was gonna say hypothetically, if you guys said, we support the override amounts for the first 5, but not the last 2, someone can stand up and say, I wanna make a motion to amend that to make it all 7.
So tonight, as we sit here, are we first
That probably
making a
won't
motion, as we sit here tonight, are we first making a motion to recommend approval of a level-funded budget?
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
I'd like to make,
And then, after that, a motion on the level service.
right.
I thought
I'd like
we
to,
already voted on the level surface.
We have not, no.
Oh,
And whether you wanna take 7 separate votes tonight or 1 vote, it's up to
so,
you.
is there a motion on the floor currently?
There is not.
no.
Right, so I'd like to make a motion to recommend approval of a level-funded budget, which is,
76,357,946.
what he said. Thank you.
There is a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second from Emily. So now we open up discussion of the level funded budget.
Level service. budget.
Sorry, no.
We're
No,
gonna,
level
No, no,
funded.
'cause
Oh,
we
you
have
haven't
a-
voted on
we
it.
have
I'm
a
sorry.
motion.
I'm ahead of you.
Now we're discussing,
My bad.
which might take some time.
Not for nothing, I think I found $160,000 in the budget.
Let's hear it.
Okay, so then for the record, I'm not against these departments but I was looking through line by line. In the treasure department, I found 37,964. If you go to the education and training, looks like every year they spend around like 700.
Can you wait 1 second for Andrew to get
Oh, I'm
the
so
numbers up?
sorry, Andrew.
Can you clue me in what's the 160,000 you were looking for?
So Abby has been going line by
Yeah,
line
to
through
see
the
if
budget, looking at
tighten up.
actuals versus
Oh, okay.
budget to try
Thanks.
to find areas that we can make our,
You can adjust if you wanted to.
we can shave some
To
money
try to
off.
take a little less
if
out
we
of
so
this
choose.
Yep.
stabilization.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No.
Yep. Oh, all right.
So, if you go to the education training, they, looks like every year they never spend anywhere near where they're asking. So I just brought that line item down to $1,000 in both budgets. Which is still more than they seem to spend, but it cuts it almost
And
in half.
If there's a year to lower our training budgets.
This would be
is
it.
The year.
So you're
We have
changing,
done- We have done that in the,
I would
And the
argue
budgets
1,000 is
before.
still too high.
I'm just trying to still like,
so 1,000.
I'd say 800, but sure.
and then if you go down to purchase services, again, I just put that
Next
down
line.
to 60,000, I'm sorry. Because again, it looks like they stay pretty close.
Did,
Andrew,
So
do you
for
have, sorry, do you have an actual number for that line for like current?
Yeah.
And then you were gonna say something.
So for the purchase of service line, I don't recommend reducing that because we have a new payroll system.
Okay.
So that's for Harper's. Before we were using CDS, which was cheaper, but it was
Old.
DOS based.
Okay.
So Harper's does a lot more for the town. So that's why the cost has increased.
Okay.
Hold on, let me-
When did we switch over to that? Was it at the start of this fiscal year? Because I remember talking to Lindsay about that at this year's as well, but also at last year's meeting with her. So I think it might be since the start of the fiscal year. So this year's number, that's part of why I was talking, this year's number might be a more accurate picture of actual versus budget. But these are definitely good so far, Abby.
Okay, hold on.
And I don't know if anybody else, in addition to Abby, has any that they found that they wanted to bring up. I did not have any in my
Can I just make one caveat with the school budget particularly?
The school budget is approved by the school committee.
And the school budget is spent by the school committee, so you would, even if you'd make a motion to reduce it by $900, and then the school department would decide if they're gonna take it out of training or something else.
I didn't.
But it's the same, it's the same.
Oh, I thought you were just doing training in the school.
No, that was training for the
treasurer.
treasurer.
Oh, I'm
But
sorry.
even the treasury,
okay.
like if you reduce
okay.
the treasury department by a certain amount, they can still decide where, that department will still decide where they're gonna spend their money, even if you reduce it by, but,
So
Good point,
I don't
good.
have the line item detail, but on the website, we have their total expenses for the year. We're about 75% of the way through the year, and they spent 68% of the budget. So it's tracking a little favorable.
Well, pretty close.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty close to where it should be. So I think probably leaving purchase services because we know the contract is higher for the additional software. I do think the training one makes sense.
Yeah.
The only other one on this one I looked at was the postage. It looked like, if you look across that line, it looked like we budget pretty high based on what we spend, but I did,
So that's bumping up this year because we have elections.
okay.
This postage budget covers the entire town. So when the clerk does mail-in voting, that's where this money will be spent.
Okay.
Thankfully, we don't have to spend it for the right to farm.
Okay.
And postage just went up.
Did,
Yeah, I did hear that. I heard it yesterday, so.
I didn't know that. I don't think I've mailed
Was it
anything in
yesterday?
5 years.
I was gonna say, but like,
I know I heard it yesterday.
Yeah, but-
Still the best deal.
So,
in the
no.
world.
yeah. Do we need
It
to,
almost doesn't make
yeah,
sense.
I guess it's in bylaw somewhere that we have to mail things and, okay,
Yeah,
great,
it
because
is.
21st
State-
century.
we used to have to mail the entire warrant to every
Oh.
household, and then a couple of years ago, we changed the bylaw to say, we mail a postcard. It says if you want a hard copy, town clerk will mail you one, but otherwise it's on the website.
But there was a
Because-
learning curve there too.
Yeah, okay.
The next one I did, Andrew, is the fire. The computer maintenance line. I wrote like chicken scratch, so just hold on. I think. Yeah, it looks like they never really spend as much as they have, so I tried to lower that one a bit.
What was last year an anomaly? Was FY '25?
Say, it looks like in FY '22 and FY '23, they spent over budget on that. So I think that's one that varies
Okay,
year to year because they don't know what computers are gonna break,
that's true.
essentially.
Or it might have to do with a hardware, like
Yeah,
hardware
certain,
upgrade.
what do you call it?
Software.
License.
Licenses.
Licensing is what I'm thinking.
Could, but usually those are handled by Wayne in the IT budget, not in the fire specific budget. I think computer
Computer
maintenance is more
maintenance.
like their laptops or devices
Okay,
in the, like in their department, in their
right.
building.
How many how many staff members?
Fire has,
40-something.
40-something.
And then the other one I did was just.
And it may be like, in the.
Ambulance.
The vehicles, it may be
computers,
like
yeah.
the computers in the
Ambulances,
vehicles.
fire trucks,
the-
yes.
the Fire
I'm
chief
just saying,
has.
I could buy everyone a new
Yeah.
computer. Okay, sure.
So what was your change?
I have
to
a
this?
picture of every building on,
For that one,
things like that.
I just put it to 15,000, but that, you raise a good point there that it's maybe vary. And the other one I did was the fuel, I put it down to 90,000, cause that looks like it's never gone over 90,000, but I do know that since I did this.
Yeah, that,
prices suck right now.
I would leave
We
it.
invaded Iran.
Yeah.
Yes.
There's that.
Probably leave that one.
So
So-
no changes to computer maintenance, or do you
I think, a good point was raised that,
I don't know though. I think it's a good point that, you know, how if we're tightening up everywhere and, you know, sure, computer maintenance of the fire trucks or whatever, but like maybe there's some wiggle room in what's happening with personal I can't remember what we probably talked about it months ago, but yeah, that's probably an area where we could ask some questions around like what's absolutely necessary versus
We need to, I'm not arguing against it, it's just, if it's in here and they don't spend it, it drops down to free cash.
Yeah.
sure.
My thought is
But like we said
Abby's
before-
point is, we're using free
Yeah.
cash
Yeah.
on it in this budget.
Yeah.
Not, not
Right.
tagged to this specific line item.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we're using free cash to balance this
balance.
budget.
Yeah.
So any free cash that we don't use goes into savings and
Yeah, and I agree. Everything could be valid. We've audited this very,
That's what I mean.
you know,
Point that out.
meticulously over these many months. So like, but I do think if we're authorizing it, we should have an understanding and be able to back it up. So if Abby went through and said,
Yes.
hey, this looks high, we should at least have an answer or an understanding of, you know, hey, is this actually necessary or is this an area where we could trim?
I missed where they have used it before, so I see that, yeah.
Well,
That's,
like once, you know.
there's also the point of if we had to fix all those computers a few years ago, maybe they won't break again
Right.
this year, hopefully. But,
So,
And do,
I would,
any change to computer maintenance or no?
no.
Oh, okay.
The, and then I would leave the fuel because like I said, I did this
Yeah.
that's rough.
in a more hopeful scenario.
The
The,
war stops and the gas is reduced.
what did you say?
I said the war stops and the gas is reduced.
Yeah.
It's gonna take a while for the
Yeah.
gas to go back down again, right?
Yeah.
yeah.
Though I did get it filled my tank for under 40 yesterday at Stop
Lucky,
and Shop.
lucky you.
I'm just
So
looking,
talk
so,
to gas station owners, and their favorite time is when the price of actual gas that they get goes down, because they wait a few days before they actually lower the prices, and they're paying less and charging more. So when it goes up, they go up right away.
Of course,
When it comes down, they.
Shocking.
They wait.
They say it goes, price of gas, I think it goes up like a rocket, it comes down like a feather.
I'm just looking, I just
Trucks
was
don't go
curious, but it's a
Rocket.
Oh,
fire,
rocket. That
what's
makes
at
much more
stake if their override does not pass, maintenance was in there. I don't know if that's computer maintenance, I don't know if that's, I'm not sure, but that is something that is,
Part of their.
part of their,
Sorry, if you want to continue, I forget. So when we have things like Medicare cost increases, overtime, like I understand the like two positions and admin, assistant, but like veterans benefits, Medicare cost increases and overtime, those are like things we have to pay. So if the override fails, can y'all just remind me, like that money still has to come from somewhere?
So I will say to fire, because I remember specifically talking to the chief about that, was they would rearrange for the overtime part of it. They were going to rearrange, and it would require people to be a little more, I think the best way to put it, a little more burnt out. But that,
I was just gonna say, so the overtime is a big issue, overtime and fire, everyone, so they're not subject to if it doesn't pass, theirs is overtime and equipment and, maintenance and some training, overtime being the big piece of it. Problem with the overtime is we have all those employees, they're all entitled to take vacation time. He has to have, the chief has to have X amount of people on
Yeah.
to operate, to run the ambulance, the fire truck. What happens is, if there's no money for overtime, then that means that there may be times that the second ambulance doesn't go out.
Yeah.
That's what he said.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it just means that additional cuts will be made elsewhere.
That we will staff shifts differently so that we don't use the overtime.
From my knowledge, when did we get to, like, when were we running just one ambulance?
A very long time.
2011, 2012, 2000 and, I think those 2 years
So if
was either 10,
That's the-
11, and then.
if that's the case though, then I'm a bit confused as to why is overtime there? Because that's not what's at stake. What's at stake is the second ambulance.
Yeah.
So
But that's how you, if I may,
That's,
Yeah, but-
yeah.
that's how you staff it, is with, you would staff, if there's, so, people take vacations, what thing that you have to sort of visualize is that there's, I don't know what the exact, let's just say there's 40 firefighters. 40 firefighters are allowed to take a vacation. 40 firefighters, some of them may end up sick for certain shifts. Whatever shift they're not there, we have to bring in another firefighter and pay them time and a half. So that drives the budget up exponentially. Now, if you have people out, so let's just say hypothetically, because you have 8 people on a shift, and one calls out, that may jeopardize having the second ambulance go out. If there's a fire, say there's a fire and a car accident and they're out, there may not be enough staff to operate the second ambulance. Now, the other thing, not to even confuse it worse, is the other bad thing about not running a second ambulance is that we lose revenue.
Right.
Every time the ambulance runs, we make revenue. So what happens is, then when the second call comes in, we can't send out our ambulance, we have to rely on one of the other communities, and then they get that revenue.
yeah, I understand. I don't know. Hopefully that will be explained.
I think seeing, it's all in their decision anyways,
Right, so like, if you give the fire department that amount of money for an override, they make the decision, because that's what they do for a living.
Strong chief.
Right, strong chiefs, thank you.
Yeah.
So, they
That's a
know
legal term.
what's going to run their department best,
Yeah,
not us.
but to Emily's point, they're not selling it very well.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
I now that I'm
I
thinking
get it.
about it, it was just.
If they
I
put,
mean,
oh, second ambulance doesn't run,
yeah,
they're more
yeah,
likely to vote for it than
yeah, exactly.
overtime.
Overtime,
They
right?
did, the
Like-
chief did talk about it, I think,
Yeah.
on the.
He did.
Right, yeah, I know,
Yes.
but
If I can.
I don't know where this is printed.
When I agree, and also, if I may, I spoke to Chief Glenn about this, and he said the wording on that does not really explain well about what that all means
Yeah,
in terms of the second
It
ambulance.
seems.
yeah.
Can we
Would-
change that and can we have this as a handout?
Yep.
And we can,
Yeah, that's-
Yeah.
because I think that'll be good for that
Now we're
discussion
kind of
about
getting
that
off of-
column.
So we need to,
Off of.
Sorry.
The
Right.
level funded
Funded, right.
budget.
yeah.
so maybe we should,
I
Wait,
what
have
else do-
one more, just
Oh,
in the
okay.
water department, I found for, oh, do you need a
So,
second?
Yeah.
the water department, it's an enterprise fund, it does not affect the
Okay,
general
then
fund.
I'll
Right.
skip it.
So,
Good job.
cutting $1,000 from treasurer's education and
Very
training,
Okay,
that's what I have.
okay.
Was it 1,000 or 900?
I-
I thought it was 1,900 down to
I
1,000.
think it was 1,900 down.
What are you with
To
that
1,000?
$100?
No, I'm just taking her notes, so I don't
You
want to.
knew it.
Yeah,
Okay.
anything else?
Riley's on top of it.
That's all then.
So,
Anyone have anything else? Any further discussion on the level funded budget? With Abby's
yeah,
amendments?
The only thing I'll say is, it still doesn't have enough money for snow and ice, and it's not doing anything with OPEB. And it's just, that's my own opinion.
Yep.
I think we all
Yeah.
agree $100,000 is enough for the snow and ice, right?
Yeah, And
Like, why raise it?
because of that, we're all able to spend more money on other things.
Yeah.
Even though we will have to pay for snow and ice. And we will eventually have to pay for OPEB. And I think we're continuing to fool ourselves and causing ourselves problems later on. That's all I have.
How does that affect? I mean, what's the long term?
It should be, you mean OPEB or snow and ice?
I mean, both. Like,
Yeah. Well, the snow and ice, Andrew can explain better.
Right, so when we have a snow and ice deficit, basically, we get to borrow free cash from the future to pay it, which isn't great.
It's the only budget that you can deficit spend in.
Because it's unpredictable.
right.
So like last year, we had a very mild winter. And had you budgeted $500,000, let's say, and you only spent 3, there's 200,000 you could have spent somewhere else. So the theory
Once you
is,
raise it, you can't lower it.
Yeah. So what we've talked about, for your information, because you haven't been here for the meetings, is looking at our year-to-year actuals
right,
and bringing it up to a number that we know for sure we
more
won't
realistic.
we won't go below, but that's more realistic than the $100,000 number.
Yep.
The year that we're going for the override is not necessary, and
correct.
Yeah.
cutting positions is not necessarily the year to do that, but it's definitely something that we need to look into as a committee.
What are we carrying right now?
Nothing.
Oh,
Or for this current fiscal, like for
right, but the long.
coming
the-
into the, like, from last town meeting, we were carrying no budget.
Oh,
We were carrying no deficit.
oh, that's great.
It was all paid for. However, this winter's
Oh, well, sure. Yeah,
storms
yeah.
are not paid for, but Andrew has been talking about looking for Massachusetts emergency
FEMA money.
FEMA money.
NEMA money.
FEMA.
I don't know if there's also FEMA money, but mostly I think we're looking for
I'm not,
money from the state.
I'm not sure we made the threshold, so if we were to get reimbursed from MEMA for the blizzard for that 48-hour window, our costs were $415,415. So that would close some of the gap,
That was for just that blizzard.
just that blizzard.
If that was just those 48 hours, we're
That's
still
correct.
way over with
Yeah, so
the
you'd have to
other
say- Right, so that would bring us down to about
850 hours of the
900,000.
winter.
Yeah.
So could I, I'm sure that question might come up at town meeting. How are we paying? You said we have, snow and ice deficit is 0 because we've paid for it already?
I
No,
thought-
it was
Oh.
at the start
was at
of
the
this-
time.
At the start of this fiscal year, the fiscal
Yeah.
year 26, the snow and ice deficit was 0. We were paid up on snow and ice.
Right.
Oh,
But now it's
I think we're at like
1.2,
1.2, 1.3.
Just for this.
Somewhere around there. If we were fortunate enough to get the 415,000, that would bring us down to like 800 and change.
And Andrew, you're looking at, do that out over a few years as allowed?
Yeah, can we carry that for
Where-
indefinitely?
we're waiting to hear
You're
back.
applying to, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
You're waiting to hear back from the state, right? All the towns are waiting to hear back from the
Yeah.
state right now. Okay.
There's lots of things the towns are waiting for the state.
Because the problem, if I may, Mr. Chairman, just with the FEMA is that there are limits. So you have to meet
Yes.
certain limits in the county and in the state.
Yep.
But every other year I've been on this board, every year we gotta go back to free cash or
Yes.
stabilization to pay for snow and ice. And we just have to depend on the other budgets not spending, the other departments not spending their budget.
Yes.
But if it worked out, if it's worked out thus far, we unfortunately have this 1 year that.
One year it wasn't going to work out, but something happened and it did? I
No,
forget.
we budgeted it out over 3 years.
Yeah, that was 2015.
Snowmageddon.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you were allowed back then.
All state
so-
allowed.
The
Yeah.
the hundred,
state
the 100,000.
But now I
you
thought
said-
That's
more
what he's
recently.
asking again.
I thought more recently it happened.
I think he's asking again now.
No, not this year. I thought it was
Oh.
a couple of years ago. I thought it happened. No?
Think so.
Maybe
We've
I,
covered-
During
we've covered it
2020,
every
maybe it
year
was,
with-
Okay.
with
So
21, it might
in
have
the
been.
future, if we were to raise it, let's say when economic times are rosy, we do raise it, we don't use it, it just goes into free cash.
Yes. I would be shocked if we raised it to something that would be an amount that we wouldn't
Yeah.
use.
Because just to fill
We're
the
not-
salt shed
Yeah.
is,
Close to $500,000.
And they got a lot of salt in there that supposedly only lasts one storm, right?
The
One
amount
medium
that's in
storm.
there.
Well, the sand
Right
that we
now,
saw,
yeah.
yeah.
It's an incredible amount to see.
Got it.
Yeah. So
Okay,
we would look to something like maybe 400,000.
got it.
We wouldn't
Four
look,
times.
we wouldn't look to like $1 million.
Got it.
I mean, I think,
There
I
have
think,
been several years where the overall was like 500.
Sure, but is that where you can add to the stabilization fund to build it back up?
It's not really depleted.
I think to make people feel better, you could
Oh,
just
well.
raise it
We're using some of it
incrementally every year.
this budget.
Yeah.
Like go from 100 to 200, see if that works. If it doesn't work, you know what I mean? Like it
Yep.
shouldn't be.
So you have a,
No, but that's not what,
That's not for this.
That's not this year. All right,
Let's-
moving on.
let's
I
bring
just,
us-
I
it's
just said that to
quarter-
explain
it's quarter
why
of
I'm not
10.
gonna vote for the
Wow,
budget.
really?
And OPEB is the same thing. You don't have to, right now, we don't have to accrue for the benefits that we've contractually will owe all the people working when they retire. But you should. And at some point, those benefits are gonna come due.
Andrew.
And we think that, well, go ahead, Andrew.
On neglecting OPEB costs, what the town loses is the time value of money. So the interest that you would have earned by saving it now, that's what you forego.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you. So this is just
So
my
Chris
own
is,
little
Chris is
thing.
giving detail as to why his vote for the
Yeah.
budget will be a no. It's
Right,
for those
yeah.
two specific issues.
Everything else is what it
budget.
is, but,
Outside
right.
of those,
Yes.
you're good with. but-
yes.
so is there a motion to
There is-
amend the line item for
there-
$900? Two $900?
I think the motion was with the amendment that.
You're just gonna take a
Abby
mo,
made.
okay.
Actually, we should probably change the motion
Yeah, the
to
motion would
amend
need
it
to be.
to include Abby's
Um,
change to the treasurer line.
And can I,
You can amend your motion.
I want to know what, you can't know. Like, there's no way to know what, why the treasurer was budgeting that amount?
At this point, no, without the treasurer to talk. to.
Okay, can I just very much appreciate you going through,
Can we?
do we need,
Abby, are you okay with us voting?
Yeah,
on
I
that
thought it was
still?
gonna be more.
oh no, 160, I was like,
Yeah,
girl,
yeah,
like,
yeah,
yeah.
absolutely.
But like,
Yeah.
it's one
Yeah, one of
department
the-
and I
one
feel
of
bad,
the
like,
items makes
Yeah.
it less.
Well, now you can shine a spotlight on it at the beginning of next year's budget discussion and look at those
That's
hard.
right.
Yeah.
Definitely something to.
So no amendment to the motion. Are we good to vote? Everyone good to vote on the level funded budget? All right, all those, there's a motion to approve the level funded budget. All those in favor?
wait,
Aye.
yeah, aye.
All those opposed?
No,
The ayes have it.
5 for 1, okay.
So now we're looking for a motion for the level service budget. The level service budget is the same as the level funded budget, but with the amounts needed for OPEB.
Subject to ratification at a May
Subject to
16th ballot.
ratification at town meeting and at the ballot box, as we have discussed ad nauseam. Is there a motion?
Motion to which article number is this?
It is also Article
13.
number 13. It's essentially 13B.
Right.
Motion to recommend approval of
Article 13B in order to discuss it.
Motion to approve the level service budget in order to discuss it.
Motion to approve the level service budget in order to discuss it.
There's a motion, is there a second?
Second.
Second from Floyd.
I would-
Discussion.
I would like to go on record and say I don't like the process in which this has been done.
I think we have gone on record multiple times saying that we don't like the process in which this has been done. But
So-
I think it's okay to reiterate that.
Okay. I just want
Yes.
to reiterate one more time.
But I think it's important that we can say that until we're blue in the face, but what then do we do going forward? I think that is something that for those of us who plan to continue on this committee, that is something we should have active conversations about. You know, we can get through town meeting, but then like, you know, maybe we should have conversations about that because there are these like big issues that
Yep. So what I will say is a little less than a year ago, the conversations about how this would play out were being had largely between the previous town manager and the select board. We did raise concerns and had discussions about the menu style versus the one number override, and the discussion was at the time was that the menu style, while some of us liked it less than others, that the select board and the prior town manager both believed it gave the best chance for overrides to pass. The whole dates and times of the election was something that came up well afterward, and is definitely something that we have learned from, and that our current town manager is well aware of our opinions on, and can represent what those opinions are if this is something that comes up again in the future.
oh, I wasn't even thinking of those sorts of things, but yes, I agree. But like the trash, you know, some of the bigger, like longer term things.
So I'd like, kind of jumping off of what Emily's saying,
I didn't want to bring it up.
I feel that, for myself anyways, I am between a rock and a hard place. I don't support an override because I think that there was a different way to go about balancing the budget, or at least I do think there was more discussions that should have been had regarding such issues as the trash.
But now,
But now, I definitely don't agree with the menu style override. I understand that some people thought that that was the way to get certain things to pass. But it's one town, and we should have, there should have been a
So-
different way to go about it. But however, I'm in a position now that I'm not in favor of cutting, with the
28 positions in the school department.
28 positions in the
13
school
positions
department.
in the police department.
the 6 police
2 positions
officers.
in the DPW.
So I feel like my hands are tied, right? Like, what are my options there? I can either vote for a menu style override to go to the townspeople, or I can vote against
Vote
it.
no.
If I vote no, then the consequence of that is those cuts, and there is no
there's no winning.
changing any
Right.
of that. So
Yeah.
I'm going to support this, not because I support it, but because the alternative is not what I want to live with, so.
Yeah.
And I,
Go ahead, Chris.
oh, my opinion, I'm kind of torn as well. I would have liked to seen a little cuts. You know, they gave us sort of all the cuts and no cuts. I would have liked to have seen all the departments say, well, yeah, we can just give up some positions. Yeah, it's painful,
The
but I'd like to see
middle
them take some of the pain I think it would be more likely to pass. Not whether I think, it's the right thing to do or not, but I would have thought they were trying to get it to pass. And I would have liked to seen them sort of maybe go halfway or three-quarters of the way. I think that's why Emily's talked about someone getting up and saying, let's make it, instead of 1.6 for the schools, 1, or 875, make it 5. But with all the confusion about the vote already being, the ballots already thing, what good does it do to change it now?
Right.
Can I say,
Yeah.
as the moderator, I also don't have any say in
Yeah.
what's in the warrant, the
Yeah.
date of the town meeting or the date of the ballot. I am also handed it to me.
Yeah.
So now I think our job is to try to, as one of you just said, that's what it is, so how are we gonna work it forward, and, but try to make sure that people understand what they're voting.
Yes.
Because we will be here we will be back in this position next year. Because
Yeah.
that, whatever gets voted for an override this year, if I think we're gonna be hard pressed to get into all of those departments to pass. So whatever does pass, next year isn't going to those departments. It is going back into a pot of money, the general fund, and we will, our trash will still increase as it has been. Our health insurance is still gonna increase as it has been. The costs the gas, the electricity, all of those costs are gonna continue to increase. You are still gonna be in a position of needing to cut, personnel next year, in my opinion.
And to Barbara's point a little bit, I'm hoping next year we can see a little more teamwork before decisions are set in stone and we're just kind of handed a silver platter, and maybe some more like across town
Well,
teamwork, so that
that's what I'm
nobody's just,
saying, is like-
blindsided a month before.
Yes. Is it like we have a new,
We have
Well, there
we
was
have
some
a very new
teamwork.
select board, and like.
There was though, there was discussions.
There were
was
discussions, we were
discussion.
involved in some of
We
the
were
discussions.
involved, but
I was involved in some, the previous town manager,
felt-
several of the members of the financial team.
But then the
were.
education fell off there. It fell off there. We went to town meeting, the townspeople weren't educated enough. We didn't get the word out enough. We
Well,
didn't.
I was saying after last town meeting, leading up to this, there were meetings, there was collaboration to get to this point, but we've learned a lot. through
We
this-
dropped the trash.
Through this
We
process.
dropped the trash after the last town meeting.
Yes, both the prior town
largest
manager,
driving-
both the prior town manager and the select board had no appetite to put the trash fee vote up again, which we, as a committee, were in favor of that being revisited, given the current financial situation and the close vote at the last town meeting.
And the continuing rising cost.
continuing
It
rising cost.
continues
I
to
just-
rise.
So,
It's 10, we can, but,
We
like,
can-
I take real issue with that a panel of 7 representatives from the community and one person decides,
so it was the select board that decided not to put it on
okay,
the
well,
warrant. So, they decided, we asked them
Sure.
to revisit that decision, and they
And it was
decided
no.
to continue their
I would anticipate
stance
that
against.
this town meeting, in this town and in every town around us, is gonna be difficult, and people are gonna have to get educated and get involved. And no matter how it shakes out at the end with the override votes and everything, I think people are going to understand my vote counts, and I have to be informed, and I have to get informed early in the process. And, I want to thank Michael Maresco, talk about baptism by fire. He started in January.
brutal.
And he's been
He's
doing
definitely
yeoman's work
stepped
on
into
cable
a storm.
TV with every department head to just get information out there. Because an informed voter is our best voter.
Yes.
But it comes down to, this is the 250th anniversary of our democracy. So the Massachusetts town meeting is the purest form of democracy. It's not there's nothing better, it's not perfect. But people have to understand what they're doing, and I think and I hope that the good thing that comes out will be that people will get involved and really participate early on and not just wait for one vote one night.
Yeah, and the only other thing I was gonna say is, what it comes down to me, for me, is, as this committee, as a member of this committee, I think it deserves to go to a vote.
Yes.
You know, let the people decide, and
That's your-
town meeting isn't
agree.
sufficient because just not enough people can get there, so, you know, whether I like it or not, I think I have to sort of let it go. Whether I
Right.
vote for it or not is a different matter,
Yeah,
but
your
I think
vote, your vote at the ballot box versus your vote on this committee are two different.
that's right.
things.
I'm voting to let the people decide.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel the same way.
Ditto.
Any further discussion? Without that, all minds clear. All those in favor of the motion to recommend the level service budget requiring an override signify by raising your hand or saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The ayes have it.
Can I just ask,
have-
before you go,
Yep.
can you guys just remind me how long you've been serving on this fight? I know it's some newbies and some oldies. Let's start with you, Matthew.
I believe I started in 2013, so this is I'm approaching my 13-year mark.
Barbara?
Barbara's using a calculator.
I know.
Well, Chris, how long have you been on that?
I think it was before COVID.
Barbara has been
So
on
that's-
since she was 12, so 17 years.
17?
Yeah.
13?
2018 or 19.
Hell yeah, that
Great.
sounds right.
Abby and Emily, I know Emily, your
My first year.
first year,
My second year.
your second.
First.
7 months.
What's your name, Greg?
Yeah, honest to God, have no idea.
All right. I think it's great to have,
It's as long as I've been.
Yeah, maybe,
Yeah, Greg was, I think, the year before Chris.
I think it's great to have the mix. I really do.
You do need to have a mix.
Definitely.
Yeah. And we do have one
We have one
vacancy.
person, we have one
Two.
person who is returning to the board, and then we have one vacancy.
Right, so if anyone would like to get involved with the finance committee after town meeting, get ready for next year, you can talk to me or any member of the finance committee, will get
And
you.
next year is gonna be really easy, so come join.
Our new pitch guy.
Yes. I can't thank you guys enough, though, because, my job is just to appoint you guys, and people who watch these shows realize how much time you guys put into it, not just at these meetings, but between the meetings. So,
And as
Appreciate
we've said before, the amount of people that are watching these constantly surprises me.
Maybe not at this point tonight, but.
it'll be
I don't think they're watching live.
There's no sports games
But
on
watching,
tonight, so I think we're
watching
set.
afterwards.
This is it.
Watching afterward,
I'm just saying lengthwise,
And
we're
things.
at the 3 hour mark
Yeah,
now, so they might
but-
have fallen off.
true. But the number of people, I mentioned last week, I found out through somebody that works for me that one of the guys who works in the DPW, AJ, who doesn't even live in Abington, watches our meetings.
it's on YouTube
It's
and cable TV.
it's impressive to me the commitment that people make just as regular citizens of the town to being informed.
Yes.
We definitely appreciate it.
For sure.
And we appreciate people like our select board member, Paul Bunker, who's stayed here through our entire meeting tonight. It's definitely
I noticed,
yeoman's work.
another select,
Yep, Nicole Emery.
Nicole Emery and our town
was
clerk.
here
Yeah.
for a while. The
Town
town
clerk
clerk
was
was
here
here. Tom Dion has been at
Yeah.
a majority of our meetings in the last couple months.
Before you adjourn, could you also remind folks of the 3 big dates coming up?
So the 3 big dates are Mother's Day.
Good answer, good answer.
No, the big dates, a week from Monday, May 4th at 7 PM.
First, I want to start with this Saturday, April 25th.
Oh, sorry. This Saturday, April 25th are the town elections. Please go vote for new members of the select board and various other positions that are open.
8 a.m. to 6 p.m. at the Beaver Brook.
That is where that will
Sorry.
be held.
That's the first one.
So that's
Second
number one.
is-
Second one is town meeting, starts at 7 PM at the middle high school on Monday, March 4th.
May
May
4th.
4th, May the 4th. Please come dressed in Star Wars regalia.
I'm planning on baking a lot of chocolate chip cookies.
Emily's gonna have a lot of cookies there. There'll be lots of information
Don't break
for
in
you
the
there.
auditorium.
They will be in the lobby. But please come early. Please bring a friend.
Early so you can check in. You have to check in with the town
Neighbors.
clerks.
Bring your neighbors.
Neighbors, friends who live in Abington.
Likely
Let
to
me
sell
clarify
out,
that
so.
one.
Anybody who
Yeah.
complains about their taxes?
Also, like,
and-
kid
Limited
friendly.
tickets.
Yep,
Kid friendly.
yep. Anyone who complains on any of the Abington social media sites.
You must be a
Please come.
registered voter in order to vote, however.
Yes.
When you approach to register and you are not a registered voter, you can enter the auditorium, but you will be designated where to sit.
I'll point out for the election on Saturday that you also must be a registered
Yes.
voter.
But kids can sit with their parents, I assume.
Sure.
Okay.
Yep.
Kids cannot vote.
And then.
Well, right, but they
Yes.
wouldn't have to sit,
Certainly.
just to be clear.
Yes.
Yeah, but
We
they
won't,
can sit
we
with
won't
their
separate
Yeah.
parents
Yeah.
from kids.
Yeah,
and
thank
then-
you.
And
Good
then,
policy.
so no cages.
No.
Okay.
And the
So
third
then
date is the May
third date is
16th
May 16th, Saturday, the override election
at the Beaverbrook,
at the Beaverbrook. And
Polls
the
open at
town
8 to 6.
clerk
8 to 6 again.
currently already has early voting at Town Hall when Town Hall is open.
That
If
is
you have
correct.
any questions about the elections, the local election, the ballot election, or even town meeting, you can call the town clerk, Leanne Adams, at 781-982-2112. And
And,
Leanne and Barbara can help you out.
yep, and back to my previous comment, May 10th is Mother's Day. So celebrate the
Very
moms in your
important.
life on May 10th.
I didn't know that. Put that in.
Why is town meeting on a weekday instead of a weekend? Is that required?
It's set by the bylaw right now. It actually, the bylaw currently reads that it is supposed to be held the first Monday of April. I was,
Yeah, we pushed it and went up. Okay, so
Yep.
it's in there that it should be a,
the selectmen have the ability to move it to any day. The reason why I was put the first Monday in April, I was on that bylaw review committee 15 years ago. Because we used to set it in like May or different times later in the year. But as the weather got better, it was harder to get people for a quorum. And when you looked at the calendar, it was like the fall sports were ending and the warm sports were just starting. And that was usually the sweet spot as far as not having a lot of conflict. Sometimes the NCAA Final Four or championship is that night.
It is not usually the sweet spot for having solid numbers from the state.
Yes, that's the only problem.
Which is why we have asked for it to be moved later.
Yes, when the state fails to get their budget, then usually the town meeting is
Pushes us
pushed back
Yeah.
to May or even early June. But we just need to make sure we get a quorum of at least 150 voters.
Yep.
Could it be changed in the future? I mean, the bylaw sets the date, but the selectmen have a right to move it. So it could be on a Saturday.
I was just
Yeah.
wondering, like, we say,
Situate does theirs on
Yeah, a
Saturday.
couple do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A couple towns, it's not out of the ordinary for them to go 3 to 4 nights of town meeting. We are doing our best that you
We
will
have
be.
never done that
Nope.
in the time that I have been going to town meeting.
Well,
both
we've
on this
continued.
Both on this committee and prior to joining the committee. I haven't been to a town meeting that continued.
And again, I go back to the work that you guys do on TV and the voters who educate themselves. It helps.
like this. Our meeting is an hour before town meeting in this.
No,
No.
in the school, we will have a
Yeah,
classroom.
here.
We will have a classroom in the
What
school. It'll be
time?
posted at the time.
Six.
Six.
And there'll be, so it's usually.
There'll be chocolate chip cookies.
And there'll be cookies. Usually it's the classrooms that are right off of the dining area, the
There'll be
center
signs.
of the.
I make a motion to dismiss Greg from the committee.
All those in favor?
I'll vote.
Finding a sweet spot.
While we
No
are,
cookies for you?
yeah, while we are wrapping things up here, I will ask if there are any liaison reports.
I emailed Chief Glenn during our conversation, and he said that that's mostly for software,
The computer maintenance.
policy, protocol programs, dispatch, and data software, but he said he'd get to me tomorrow with greater detail on the items that they've purchased so far.
real-time updates.
Yeah.
Wow.
Real-time liaison.
I know it's his
report.
birthday, but he did say, if anything comes up, do not be afraid, so. Happy birthday and thank you for responding.
Yes, thank you, Chief. Any
Thank
other liaison reports? I mentioned earlier, there's no correspondence. There are no minutes, but I was in communication with Kelly, and she said that she has been working on them, and we will have them to potentially vote on for our meeting before town meeting. If not, then we will vote on them at our next meeting after that. So we have minutes coming. As stated, our next meeting is on May the 4th at 6 o'clock, 1 hour prior to town meeting. We will take up anything that may have changed in between now and then. Without that, I would be open to motion.
to adjourn.
I'll
Second.
second.
There's a motion to adjourn and multiple seconds.
Aye.
Any discussion? Without any, all those in favor of adjourning?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, abstaining, it is unanimous. We are adjourned. Thank you all and see you at town meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.